Welcome back to another episode of Summoning Insight. In a little bit, we are going to have Crownshot on the show. But first off, do our little intro.
He prefers not to be there at the beginning anyway. He likes to just join in later, like partway through the proceedings, you know.
Exactly. He would only agree to be on the show 20 minutes later. We actually had to negotiate him down. He was going to come like 2/3 of the way through the show, but he'll be here for the whole time this time, which is great because we have a lot to talk about about LEC. We have very little to talk about with LCS, with the games as they were this week. Tragic. But I do want to start off the show with an interesting topic of conversation, Thorin, because there was something very unusual that happened this last week that I think a lot of people didn't pick up on, which is that there's been a lot of conversation, I think, about items and itemization in general that has been dominating the League of Legends scene. And what's so curious about this is that it overpowered the conversation about Schalke versus G2 Game 5, which in retrospect, especially once we've seen this Reddit post with the math around the items, should have been a compositional conversation. But what's very weird, Thorin, is that every analyst and coach got the analysis wrong on the broadcast. And I myself thought the same thing that everyone else
What
did.
is the premise then? Give us the gist.
Yeah, so the gist is this, that basically in the G2 versus Schalke Game 5, that the analysis was that Schalke should have had a scaling advantage the longer the game went.
Okay.
And so that didn't happen. G2 dominated the late game and very clearly and convincingly won it. But here's the thing. Then the conversation switched to, should the items have been different and allowed Schalke to win? At which point the math came through and the answer was pretty much no. And you can see it on your screen right now. We'll talk more about this with Crownshot later. But what is so wild about this, Thorin, is that Vedius and Cadril were on the broadcast saying, hey, Schalke's going to outscale. And then they had to be very surprised and say, hey, actually, no, G2, the evidence is showing us that they're outscaling with this composition, which it's kind of like a Juggernaut comp back in the day with Lucian. But also, as Dylan Falco, the coach, was interviewed at the start of the game, said, we think that we have an advantage late here if we can survive the early game. I thought that G2 would be at a disadvantage late. Tons of people on Twitter were saying, so I'm not trying to target the casters here. It was basically universally accepted by experts within the scene that this would be a strong compositional scaling advantage for Schalke, and it didn't happen. And so it's very rare that this occurs in an esport where no one is saying the opposite publicly, at least no one that I could find. And so I'm curious what your take on that scenario is, because to me, it feels like there's something broken in the way that we approach analysis in League of Legends.
Like how you could end up with a consensus, essentially.
The opposite consensus, right? The exact opposite. Yes. And I was in the same boat as well. And so I've spent a lot of time in the last few days kind of thinking about the assumptions that I have about the current meta, the assumptions that I have about the game as it stands right now, and how it could have led me to this erroneous conclusion, effectively.
What is the premise? Like, what changed about the items you said? Like, the people thought before the only reason it didn't scale is because they bought the wrong items, presumably. If they'd have bought something else, it would have made it a difference. What was the distinction there?
Well, even I tweeted, like, I wonder on Azir if Abadage had bought Leandries instead of Ludens, what would have happened? And we'll talk about, we'll get into the nitty gritty with Crownshot about that. But it turns out there's a Reddit post that I'll go ahead and link in the chat right now that says basically, and we'll get into the more details of why this is, but it says basically that it was pretty irrelevant. And if you actually look at the team fights too, which I rewatched the game again before the show, you could really see G2 was never even close to dying. So more grievous wounds, longer grievous wounds would never have helped. So what was so staggering about this, Thorin, is that it was just such a wrong assumption by everyone that it wasn't even remotely close. The itemization, I don't think, would have changed the outcome of the game. And so I'm just very surprised.
The part I don't understand is normally when people argue about this stuff, it's part of the reason I actually think initially LS had so many anti-fans is usually it's so negligible. Like it really is just some scenario where, yeah, if you played out this aspect perfectly, then maybe it had an end impact. But ultimately, in this game probably wouldn't have mattered if this guy had one slightly different, 10 10 fucking unit stats to one side
Yes.
as opposed to the other. So normally they never fucking shut up arguing about that, about draft. So
Yes.
the idea nobody would have the correct take actually is pretty nuts.
It's really nuts. And what really I find interesting is that as soon as the game was over, the conversation immediately shifted to itemization, and we found out later that the itemization is really kind of irrelevant in these late game team fights. It would have been approximately the same damage. There's strong arguments that Luden's was better than Leandri's. And like I said, I want to get into Crownshot and see if he thinks that Neon's build should have been different or something like that. But I just find it weird that the culprit would be blamed on the itemization. And to me, there has been too much, over the last year or so. People have been really focused on itemization, and that's been so much of the conversation. And I think a lot of this boils down to, first off, is that we've had the largest itemization change in League of Legends history. So people are trying to relearn the game that they may have been playing for 10 years effectively, right? There's a lot of actives right now as well that are shifting things around. But also, I think people really tunnel on itemization because many people who watch esports are doing it to get better at the game. And itemization is something that you can kind of control yourself in a game of solo queue. So people tend to put a lot of weight on it. Whereas at the professional level, sure, sometimes there are itemization mistakes where something is clearly better, but games are very rarely won or lost off itemization at the pro level. And so to look at it here, I think is very
I
interesting.
do think though, like that is one area where it's funny because coaches don't use, rather the commentators don't usually like tunnel too much on this specifically. It's more people watching on Twitter, etc., who care about this stuff. But I
Right.
do think actually that sometimes, well, here's the point: I'm not as interested as to whether the commentator thinks they did the right or the wrong move. What I prefer when they explain is like what the premise of why he's building this item now is. Like essentially, just update me on what the win conditions should be. Because when I find it interesting is when I see a player essentially build something that if you actually like pause it, you'd be like, wait a minute, he thinks the game's going a totally different way to his teammates here who play like the other lane or something. Those are the angles where I think it's interesting because then it's like an actual strategic choice and you can evaluate that qualitatively, you know.
Yeah, and I find it curious too because in other games that have economies and buys, like in Counter-Strike, you would never you don't hear the same kind of tunneling on specific buys or like this guy bought the wrong number of smokes or this guy bought the wrong weapon and it people pretend that the game comes down to that in League of Legends a lot of the times, which I find really strange right now. And it wasn't always the case either. Like this didn't happen 2 years ago. You know
No,
what I
put
mean?
it this way, it's one of the reasons why I always used to think it was so bizarre that people like held that against Power of Evil. Because I always used to say this again, maybe it shows the difference because I'm like a host on shows, so I know how to talk to people. If you actually listen to Power of Evil's reasons, his reasons always had like a logic to it. You might not agree with
Yeah.
it, but he would literally tell you at what point in the game he thought he'd be stronger and why he did it at this moment and what you could have gotten. Like he even would do all the math for you, you know, whether you agreed with it, it's still at the end your choice. But like to me, yeah, it was way more interesting to know like why he built it than this is the most optimal build in X possible cases, you know, which is what most people's approach is.
Have you
Another thing,
noticed
by
that?
the way, one thing that is mad, which doesn't surprise me that you could have like groupthink like this, is holy fuck, there are actually so many people in League of Legends still using the logic of like, but how could X be bad if all these world champions are using it? It's like, what does that even mean? Like, what? What? It'll never be good argumentation, will it? Let's be
Well,
real.
yeah, and I think like the reason why a lot of this itemization is discussed is because pro players weren't doing the math a lot of the time,
No, they
right? And that
weren't.
was the analyst. And so everything that a pro player does, by the way, guys, is almost everything that any pro in any game does is based on feel. That is almost always the case. And so they're making more instinctive reactionary choices rather than turning on their brain and thinking about what exactly is the best build in this scenario. So I do think that a lot of the talk of itemization has actually improved at the pro level, but I never think that it was very rare that it was the case between a win or a loss, because the item builds were good enough to kind of get by at the professional level, and it was a lot down to team comps or the way those team comps played out. So I don't know. I think like this game really represents, I think, a pretty big watershed moment for analysts about how this game should be approached right now, because I didn't see anyone with the correct take, which is really bizarre. Can you think of any other instances where that's kind of been the case in esports? I'm curious.
Oh, I could give you some examples of like put it this way. This actually ties very heavily into a topic that obviously has been on my mind recently, which is the topic of like what role does LS play in the community, etc. And a point I made to you on that episode of Crackdown we did that was alluding to this is that when you're someone like LS who came from a game, just like I had with Counter-Strike, he had a game that essentially was never updated for 10 years. Well, what you find out is it's not that everything's figured out like 1 year in. You can actually get mad examples where stuff doesn't get figured out for years. So the two most obvious ones in Counter-Strike actually was the Krieg and the UMP were literally both in the game in exactly that state for something. The Krieg's the maddest one because it was years. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
And in fact, the rare time anyone even used this gun, right, was players like Elige and Magus, who, by the way, ended up being like the absolute best players with this gun when it was overpowered. And even when they used it, they'd use it almost like a joke weapon. Like, nah, I'm just going to fuck around for a few rounds, but then I'll just get rid of it. So what's mad is, literally, if they'd have just gone, or maybe I just won't get rid of it, they would have just instantly been like the best player in the whole game. But no one knew this for years. So it took actually years for people to figure that out. It's partly because as well, it's just people following like a fucking flowchart thinking of like, well, I'm going to do this because everyone does it. So what is the correct response to that? But you don't ask yourself, is there a lateral move you could have done around the side that maybe like supersedes the whole thing? Yeah, exactly. That's the reason why people don't get why I always stress that people like LS are trying to actually essentially design their own fundamentals of the game and then build their premise up. They're not just going, right, everyone else thinks this, so I'm just going to go that +1. Like, that's a very simplistic approach you can do. And if you're a beginner, by the way, it's a pretty good approach. They probably know more than you. But if you're actually trying to get like some revolutionary thoughts, you've got to assess the whole the conceptions you have of the game, what the rules are, etc. Aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think like it was always going to take some time for the pro scene or for us to understand what all of these new items do and how they're going to affect the metagame because especially with the introduction of all the actives, it's the game's in a very weird space where a lot of champions that like have never really been professionally viable, like Udyr, are suddenly top tier,
Makes
and that's
sense.
because of item changes. The Darius that we saw in this series is really different than we would have expected previous Darius play to go with Stridebreaker. And so I think what's happening now is that people are reevaluating the game and what champions are viable in which kind of roles. Like you couldn't engage on Darius previously. Well, that's we've seen now that that's kind of an option. So I think there's going to be a lot of probably soul searching after this game and how everyone could have gotten it so wrong, and also really what is the meta and how is this going to affect MSI, which is really exciting because I think we're going to see a lot of very interesting things at MSI as all these regions collide and the best teams are able to experiment more with weird comps like the one G2 ran in game 5. So before we get into all of that, though, because I think Crownshot will probably have a lot of insight, let's take a quick break. Let's bring Crownshot onto the show, and we can start talking about LEC playoffs a little more in depth.
Right, our guest for this episode is going to be Crownshot. He started the off season as the AD carry of nobody because he, for whatever reason, they just got rid of him from SK Gaming or couldn't pay for him or whatever. And then after that, eventually he got to join Vitality, who I still don't even know what was going on with that team or how it just all collapsed. Thing is, I've actually figured it out, Crownshot. No one else has figured out what obviously happened, but I actually have now deduced by pulling in lots of different threads, right? So what happened was, how sometimes in the UK, where I come from, if you don't have much money, right, you go on a mate's holiday, you all get together, you pool your money together, and you pay for like, you all rent one place, you can go, somewhere in the hills, and you have drinks. You did that, right? You, Nemesis, and LS all pooled your money for the same agent in the off season, and you know what? That agent was fucking garbage. Like he fucked up the whole thing. Like he ruined everyone's whole trip. But you know what? In for a penny, in for a pound, as you say in England. So at least you stuck by the boys, So went about as well as it could for all of you.
He was also the only one that ended up on a team eventually. So
technically, the others, technically, LS and Nemesis did end up on T1 and Gen G respectively. Which, by the way, not a sentence I ever thought I'd say out loud. But as streamers, not quite as cool as if that sentence was, as players. So.
I don't know if being a mascot is the same thing as being in the server, as it were, but
I mean, jokes aside, I mean, I don't think it was the agent's fault. It was a lot of crazy things, I guess. I mean, obviously can't share everything. Maybe later down the line, but at least I'm on a team now. We're doing what I love, right? Like competing, and even though it was still online, but it was still fun to join a team and in my opinion, make like a noticeable change. Yeah.
I think you did indeed make a very noticeable change to Vitality in that the games actually looked winnable when you were playing in them, as
Yeah.
beforehand it was really tragic in terms of Vitality's overall performance. And it just makes me wonder, as a veteran player, it considering that you were the brightest spot on SK last year, and to see them kind of change a lot of the roster around, move Gen X into the top lane. Gen X has actually grown a lot as a top laner, which we can
Yep.
certainly talk about. I think he was very impressive in the series versus Fnatic. But in fact, he's probably the only reason that they were really even competitive in that series. But I'm shocked that you ended up on no team. And I know you and I have discussed this previously, but
Yeah.
it was very weird this European offseason because it felt like with Mad Lion's success with the 4 rookie roster, that every team just wanted to take a look at the next,
Yeah.
the EU Masters. Let's get the next rookies.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
they can be super good. But when everyone does that, there's a lot of flaws with that
Yeah.
kind of thinking. It felt like people weren't willing to build around established veterans. And I made the joke of like the classic like Family Guy joke of like, you know, what's in the mystery box? It could be anything. It could be even be a boat, right? And it's like, what could this 80 carry be? It could be anything. It could even be Crownshot. Is kind of like hilarious that you didn't end up on a team through all of this. So what was your experience with how teams were recruiting? Is that true? They were
Yeah.
mostly looking at the rookies?
Well, well, to address like somebody in the chat who said that I banked on Fnatic G2, right? That is like completely false because that part got known a bit later in the off season. I was mostly talking to NA teams, and a lot of it just fell through. And I think I explained in a previous video, if I wanted to even talk to any other team, I had to decline the SK offer. And then they just were talking to someone else or whatever. And I felt like it was time for a change of pace, so I declined it. Um, I was in close talks with some NA teams, but it just fell through in the end. Maybe also because they wanted more rookies, but for sure, I think there's this fallacy or maybe wrong idea that people have in esports, where if someone is like a rookie and young, and this means this player will be a prodigy, or like this can be the next caps, right? Like this is what every team thinks. While I think it's obviously a huge leap you have to take, right? Intellectual leap you have to take to just assume every player has that potential. And I think maybe also unwillingness to spend. Maybe it's also Corona, right? Affecting stuff. I mean, probably for sure, right? Um, but I was a bit surprised. Yeah, I think the rookie hype I see every year, right? In my mind, EU Masters gets weaker and weaker because, well, all the talent gets like sucked up, right? So I mean, eventually, it's gonna be at least slightly weaker.
It's
It was
probably its
probably
best about 2.5 years ago. Something. What would
yeah.
you say? You
Well,
know.
well maybe Frog Forgiven. Maybe that split.
Oh
I
yeah,
would
that's
say
right. He
was
did stomp all you guys. My bad. I forgot about that.
yeah, they did beat us. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I think it was at the highest for sure that split. And like for example, even in 20 uh, last year, yeah, in spring when LDLC won it, right? For the next split, none of them actually went to LEC, which means in the eyes of people, none of the rookies were LEC ready. But then this year, there is 14 LEC ready rookies out of nowhere. What, in my opinion, that is just impossible, right? Like, there's no way that works. Um,
Well, what's funny
uh,
too about this is that even the team that created this wave, which is Mad Lions, right?
yeah,
Last year, they didn't even they got rid of half their rookies. They're
yeah,
like they don't have Shadow and Orome anymore, right? They
yeah,
replaced them, and they replaced them with like a veteran from the Turkish scene, right? So it's like they even dialed back on getting rookies into their own team, and they said, "Hey, even though we had these good results, it's not good enough. This is not going to push us to the next level." And indeed, they look like a much better team now, right? I think Mad Lions looked really good
yeah,
overall in the playoffs. And so it seems like their decision is being justified, but even Mad Lions know that Mad Lions got lucky. You know?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not saying every rookie is garbage, right? I'm just saying what Reddit or just people have a tendency to do is they tend to hype up new players because it's like the unknown, right? It's more mysterious. Oh, maybe this guy could be really insane.
Sure.
Maybe these people could be crazy. But I mean, come on, like you can't just call every single new player that comes into the league, wow, this team is going to be so exciting to watch. I think this team can be insane. Like, not every team can be good. Like, right? Like there has to be bottom teams and top teams. But for sure, I think the rookie hype is way overblown. I think there's a lot of players that came in this split that are not the best. So they have a lot of holes in their gameplay. You can see that they're not LEC ready. And yeah, it's just maybe it's more economic reasons, right? Or maybe teams want like they see obviously Mad Lion's success and they think of it as the norm, not as like a rare thing that happens, right? Like people love saying that LEC every year it brings a different rookie team to Worlds or something, right? I think that's a like a common thing people say, but
It's like
it's
a
not like
classic veteran quote, I think.
yeah, yeah, but it's not like a endless supply of rookies that you're just producing every year. Like I don't think the talent pool is nearly as deep as China and Korea. So
Well, I mean,
yeah,
objectively, like China has 10x as many players,
yeah,
right?
it's
So
just a numbers game. I mean, it's the same in Korea. Like teams there have like AB like academy and then second academy and then even third team. Right, they have like 15 players ready. Um, if they spot a talent, they instantly sign them to academy and nurture him from the start. So the culture is much different, right? Here, I think it's very rare that somebody gets replaced mid split, but I think Korea it happens for sure more frequently than in China. If some people have bad games, they're just changed instantly. So
This is how
yeah,
you know, by the way, how different LEC is from LCS, because we're actually on LEC. Like, please stop developing talent. Like, there's enough talent. Like, we don't. Whoa! You're throwing that Crownshot baby away with the bathwater. Whoa, we can redeem that still. Listen, bring that here, bring it over here. Get rid of him. Like, he's not actually that good. So get rid of like. Dude, we actually have too much talent. Like now, people are just because, as you say, the real problem is they even actually unironically say things like, "Like, but what if he's the next Caps?" Like, first of all, don't say that as though there's like 50 of them out there. Just fucking. That's like going, oh, instead of working for some money, maybe I'll just walk around the street and just hope I just find like 10 euro notes. Like it might happen once or twice, mate, but it's a bad strategy long term, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
so the problem I have is the area that I can't handle, which is why I actually agree with Monty Appers. You think they do it cynically to save money? Is
yes, they
I
do.
don't think that these owners really believe that they're going to get like all LCS talent in the first year, but they're acting like they are by the pickups they're making. They're gambling like they are, but only a couple of people are going to get those players. Because as you said, that famous thing of like, we take a rookie team to work, it ain't going to happen this year. Like, this is obviously the year it won't happen, because this year it would have to be like SK's team or something. Like they have an outside chance at it, maybe, but even then it's just not going to happen. So, in my opinion, like that was a thing in the past, because last few years people did a really good job of getting the rookies in, but I think they've gone too far this offseason. For me, it went the other way. Now they've gone too far, just trying to gamble, basically.
yeah. For I mean, it was never as high as 14. Like that's 3 teams of rookies. That's crazy,
Yes.
right? Like I think it's a
It's
way to
30% of the league.
yeah, that's actually absolutely crazy. Like I think it's a way to maybe like hype up the fans, right? Instead of telling them, yeah, like I mean, we just can't compete with some of the bigger teams and their budgets or like NA teams, which is just a like fact for some teams,
Sure.
right? Um, and a way to like soften the blow or something is just to say, yeah, this guy completely stomping national leagues, he's insane. And you know, of course, I mean, it's a business in the end, I guess. So that's you obviously have to create hype, even if
You
there
know,
is no hype there, right?
I think like maybe in the short term, you're right about the talent development as well. But I think in the long term, the EU talent development and also incentive to play is probably getting higher because, for example, we've seen absolutely huge numbers in the French league viewership, which
Yeah,
should, mean that amateur players or tier 2 players start to get more money from the teams and it becomes more valuable for sponsors to enter the LFL and stuff like that. So I think maybe in the next couple years, we might see, fewer rookies. But I think that because the regional leagues have started to develop really significant viewership, like actual now we have League of Legends sub leagues that are getting kind of tier 2 esports viewership, that it'll create a bigger incentive for these teams to develop players, because then they can sell them to LEC or LCS, right? And
Yeah,
they can have sustainable sponsorships locally within France. They can train the players better through better facilities. So obviously that's not going to happen immediately, because this is the first year we've seen those big numbers. But if that continues, I think actually like it sets up a really nice development pipeline.
yeah. I mean, there's also something like to mention, like some of these like more popular regional teams. What you see there is every player that actually plays, the fans hype up every player as LEC ready. Like K Corp, right, which is like the most popular French team now. The French fans, I understand them. I'm just like commenting on. I don't want to get any more hate that I got this split, but what I want to say is like you can't. Not every player can be LEC ready. If that player like didn't get to LEC in a few years, then he's probably not LEC ready. I mean, and even you can hype up the rookies to be LEC ready, but then you have to justify it by explaining who you think they would replace, right?
Sure.
You can't, and you can say, oh, LEC needs 12 teams and all of this because the talent pool is deep, but then you also have to compare what is it like deep compared to, because compared to China and Korea, the bottom LEC teams would get demolished by a lot of LCK LPL teams for sure. And if you put in two more teams that are like full national league, right, rookies, unproven rookies on the LEC stage, unproven, then I don't know how well they would do. So yeah, I think of course it's like a natural reaction of fans to want to see their favorite players in LEC, because this is like the top league in the region, and it's just a product of hype. But I think people need to. Sometimes it's a bit excessive for sure.
By the
Yeah,
way, just to put your mind at ease on that, like that's not even a discussion that like needs to happen, because it's literally almost non-existent. Like the idea, like
yeah.
basically
I
what
mean,
fans are
of course.
doing, right, is where they go, well, there's all this extra talent, so we should just add 2 teams to the league. Like, who are you, by the way? Like, this isn't like it's not like a fucking party that you're arranging. Like, you are aware, like, LEC is a thing where companies buy in for like $10 million
Yeah,
or
exactly.
more.
That's the funniest
By
part.
the way, it's invite only. You don't just, it's not like it's not like crashing someone's wedding, like, oh, what's going on there? Little sausages and stuff. You got any more of those like hors d'oeuvres? Like, what do you do when you, like, so, in case you don't know, by the way, if you go to the LEC owners and go, but guys, there's more talent than you could use.
Yeah.
Why don't you just invite 2 teams and let them have some of the players, maybe they can beat you? They're just going to go, no thanks, I think we're cool as we are, actually.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
listen, we already let XL in, so I think we're just cool. If that's fine, why you?
yeah, that's the most like hilarious part to me, is that the fans just say, "Oh, there's so much talent. We need 12
Yes.
teams inside." They don't understand. It's about revenue sharing, the
Of
buy-in,
course, yeah.
all of this. You need 2 huge orgs that will buy in and commit long term. Like, oh, they just see, "Oh, my favorite player. He needs to be in LEC. He needs to be in
Yes.
LEC." Right? I mean, yeah, that's just. I guess that's what fans are in the end, right? They need
Yes,
to be a bit
idiots, indeed.
irrational, I guess. So yeah.
Well, I mean, and here's the also, if you're trying to use the logic of like, oh, look at all the teams China has. Have you guys ever watched a bottom tier LPL Fiesta?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to watch that. We don't need more LEC teams. We definitely don't need more LCS teams, right? We're not getting quality games at the bottom of the table right now, or even remotely interesting games, frankly. So I think, right now, LEC, I feel like I didn't really feel like I wasted a lot of time watching any LEC game this split. Like, I felt like even if I was watching 2 of the lesser teams, there were still reasons that I was interested in it. Whereas, further dilution, I think would exacerbate that issue
Yeah.
potentially. So
Oh, the stupid thing about LEC is this. This is why whenever people talk about the strength of the league, we have to ask, what do you mean by that? Like, usually when I talk about strength of the league, I usually mean like how many elite teams do you have? So, for example, LCK doesn't look that great because aside from Damwon,
Yep.
the others look super ropey, right? But if you want to go the other way and just talk about basic parity, the LEC, the bottom of the LEC, last split and this split is fire. Like the teams that don't make the playoffs, I'm not saying it just like everyone does on all these talk shows. That some of the teams that do not make the LEC playoffs would make a run in the LCS playoffs. And I'm not going to do that thing like they'd all win or whatever. Like, no, but put it this way, they would be dangerous. I'm not fucking around.
Yeah, I mean, every split, the playoffs actually come down to the last week. Every single like I think it was 3 splits in a row now, or like especially last summer and this spring were very close until the end. Like
I mean, you
which
barely
showed
got
you,
in at SK in
yeah,
summer. So.
barely. Like we were like 9 I think, or and it was just one game difference,
Yes.
uh, and it was, I remember checking from before, like the games are always very competitive until the end, especially in best of ones, right? You always, even Rogue wins the split in best of ones, and I feel like for sure teams can take games off each other. I mean, I think everyone is of the opinion that like the middle pack EU teams could probably like make runs in NA. I don't know how deep. Like I still think C9 and TL are very good teams, just because of the players they have.
Sure.
You just know they're top tier players. So I'd imagine they'd be pretty high in EU. Probably,
I also think
yeah.
that C9 and TL are struggling because of the quality of their practice environment. I think you
Yeah.
send one of those, you know, when one of those teams gets sent to MSI and they actually have a chance to scrim regularly against other top teams, I think they're going to improve dramatically. Like their ceiling is very high.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe one thing to mention as well in NA that like at least for some teams, I know some of them just scream from their apartments, like they're not even together, right? And I think because
Cloud9
of the,
no, Cloud9 and TL are both in, TL's in their
yeah.
facility and Cloud9's
Oh,
in their
okay, okay,
house.
okay.
They
But
live
like some,
together,
I know
Cloud9.
some others, right? Like I think FlyQuest or something, they have their own apartments, and I think this actually does create a bit worse environment for improvement if you're never together and you're only in your apartment alone, right? So that's just maybe a negative effect of COVID, right? But can be controlled. But for sure, I think the lower the level of the league is, your bad habits will be punished less, right?
Yep.
Maybe C9 can get away with drafting more confident, cocky, right? Or maybe they can disrespect people more in game, or they can throw more leads and still win in the end. But of course, when you play against the best of the best, generally, like you get punished, right, for stuff like that.
Sure. I don't want to talk about LCS right now, though. Fuck
Sure.
LCS. Let's talk about LEC.
Sure,
By the
sure.
way, if
Yeah,
anyone needs
that's
to
why
know
I'm
why
here.
we don't want to talk about LCS, here's why, right? Because remember, I'll keep telling everyone I want the spectacle for the LCS. Then again, I look at the fucking names and I realize, well, I'm never going to get it, am I? Like, no one's going to have pyrotechnics. And introducing your AD carries, Lost versus Deathly. Oh my God, the crowd! Deathly fans, maniacs are in the building here. I've got to tell you, freak. And oh, but the Lost Legions there. It's never gonna, and over in the other match, though, don't tune out, guys, because coming up, we've got a full best of 5 of Rioma versus Saligo. All that action you've been dying for from Academy. I'm out. This is the playoffs. This is the playoffs. How many people make the league? Have I gone back in time to LCS 2013 when everyone was like, it's only going to be CLG digging that, and it was like, and Good Game University in the finals competing, like. I was out on LCS from Split 1. I was there from day 1, and I was out from Split 1. There you go.
We will flame LCS later, guys.
There you
I
go.
promise you. Because
It was condensed version.
That was the preview. I personally need to hear Crownshot's take on Deftly, who we've seen like 5 years of play out of right now, but somehow is still getting these opportunities. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there. But I would like to actually talk about good games for, well,
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk about LC as well. I was on the analyst desk,
I know,
and
you're great.
yeah, I mean, where do you guys want to start?
All right. So because we did this in the talking about it before the show, let's start with G2 versus Schalke, because so when I say good games, there were also some really bad games in here that were kind of a fiesta. And it felt like after G2 goes up 2-0, they're doing that G2 thing where they start to like play with their food a little bit. The game 3 draft. So there's kind of there's my take on this draft is as follows. There is a win condition to this draft of Scion, Lilia, Twisted Fate, Sivir, Alistar.
Oh yeah,
There is a win condition, but it is an execution heavy composition that if you fuck it up even a little bit and you get into a position where you have to 5v5 around objectives, you just lose the game. So the win condition is this. You have extremely long range engage through Scion ult, Lilia ult, Sivir ult, Alistar combo, Twisted Fate ult, right? So it's a pick composition where you're trying to always outnumber your opponents in a side lane, probably. or you're trying to pick people off as they come to objectives. However, if Schalke is able to group up in a river in front of a dragon or a baron with Darius, Hecarim, Oriana, Jinx, and Gragas, you just lose because you don't like Sivir will do a lot of damage. And I'm sure you can talk about this more in depth than I can. Like Sivir can't do anything against the composition in a 5v5, right?
Exactly. So the first thing is like what you saw very key in that series is the team that actually had counterpick bot lane was kind of dictating, because in the first game, or like not in the first games, I think Mickey played Gragas into Alistar and they were controlling bot, and then it swapped. And I think one game Schalke also had like Vayne, Alistar into Kai'Sarel, so that's also counterpick. And then Limit played the Gragas this game specifically, right? So that was a big part. So you have counterpick bot lane, then you have outscaling mid, right? And you also get Darius into Sion, which is a good lane, so Darius can just play alone. So all you need to do is just, if the Sivir falls behind, then they have no damage, right? And even if Sivir is like fine in the game, she still has to team fight into an Oriana, a Hecarim, a Jinx, and Darius, right? Like she doesn't have much space. She gets outranged by both the carries, and she's playing into like a lot of engage, right? So it's for sure not easy. It's a bit of a cocky draft, I would say. Maybe just a wrong, like bad draft in that specific case. But I mean, they did get punished for it. Like it showed you that some like draft, some like if they mess up once that game, then it just completely snowballs out of control, right? And that's what happened. Also, then I believe game 4 is when they I think they just misplayed early. Like they had the slow push going into them on bot lane, and they just fought when enemy bot lane was level 3 to level 2. Then they died. Then the Vayne got like 2 kills. Then they fight again. She gets 2 kills again, and then they just kept dying. But like it showed us huge strength that G2 has that I don't think many other teams do. Is that even when they're losing, you can never really count them out, because a lot of teams, like I can tell you from scrims, if that happens, game 4, and your enemy Vayne is like 3-0 and it's like 6-0 in kills, you just, a lot of teams would pause, right? But then they slowly start clawing back. And I think they would have actually won that game if they had gotten the Nash with the smite. But
which by the way
whatever.
is hilarious, guys. So the reason, if you weren't familiar, so it was a big kind of scandal where the Baron is just sitting there at like 100 HP after Gilius tries to smite, and it's just sitting there, and it's like plenty of time to hit smite. And the reason why Jankos didn't smite it, even though he had smite up, was because he had changed his smite to target champions only, which you use in like, so if you're a jungler, the reason why you might have that on a toggle on your keyboard is because if you're tower diving, you don't want to accidentally like smite a minion or whatever, right? In a team fight, if you're fighting in lane. So it does actually have value as a jungler to use that. However, he forgot to toggle it off. So he was trying to smite it and couldn't because it wasn't able to target the Baron. It was only able to
just
target
probably the best jungler in the history of League of Legends. But yeah, just fucking up basic mechanics in year fucking 10 or whatever. No, it's in what, year 7 or something. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the target champions only key has cost a lot of people who haven't used it have just misclicked towers in competitive and actually died.
Yeah, I've seen it. I remember a team fight. I remember a team fight where Doublelift was just like hitting a fucking minion for like 4 attacks or something, like back in the day. There's been some really cringe ones for sure.
Yeah. I think there's also a gold card in LEC last year. I don't remember who it was. I just remember like a gold card. But yeah, and then after that game, game 5, they were like in control, right? Then the Jinx stole the dragon, which was funny, I guess. I mean, it's just a nice addition that now it can actually deal 3k damage.
Which, by the way, there used to be a damage cap against monsters with Jinx ult, but
obvious reasons.
But it was removed, and so now you have to body block that rocket and be smart about it because the AOE from it can actually just out damage your smite.
Yeah, it literally is like freak. Imagine how good TSM would be now if Wild Turtle, if you remember how many Nashers he actually stole back in the day. I remember against Team Liquid, against how he dominated. I think he was just stealing, or I don't know against who, against Team Liquid for sure. I remember Piglet was playing.
This is
and
how
he was
unreasonable it is to be a jungler, by the way, guys. Every year when they change it, they just change stuff like that. So then everyone's like, why, you idiot, why didn't you smite? Like, so someone with 3,000 damage can just hit it. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
a
I
lot
don't
of
have a
times,
3,000
yeah.
damage ability. Like,
Well, the other thing that's
Yeah, that's fair.
the other thing that's very interesting now is that a lot of the AD carries can actually do more damage than Smite, like a third
Yeah.
Vayne proc or a Kaisa passive proc. Like it's actually very hard sometimes to Smite secure because
Yeah, I mean, or like
you have abilities that do, or like
Mhm.
you know.
Syndra, Oriana, like
Yeah.
against these champions. Like, if you remember sorry for cutting in, by the way.
No, go.
Last summer there was a Rogue G2 game where Rogue was actually winning extremely hard against G2, and G2 was like not locked for playoffs yet in summer. And then Caps just stole Nash with Syndra because at that point Syndra was so strong that her QE just outsmited, like outdamaged Nash. Or like Jean fourth shot too, right? You can't outsmite it. You just cannot, right? Like it's impossible. So I mean, you could like you could discuss if that's supposed to be in the game or not, but it is. And so yeah, that
I'm just
was
saying you
unlucky.
shouldn't flame junglers because there's so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
abilities in
of
the
course.
game that like. I mean, you should flame Jankos for that one because that was actually the world's
that was
easiest
funny, at
smite
least.
that he
Yeah,
fucked
exactly.
up.
I mean, yeah, like I think a lot of times it's more like the team like should know that it's like a 50-50, right? They should just not do it because you can't.
Correct.
A lot of times it's easier for the stealing team to steal than for the guy smiting to smite, because if the stealing team like puts their damage together, yeah. I mean, we can discuss this for a long time, right? But so after that happened, like they were still winning very hard, but then they like all die in mid lane, like minute 21, and then Schalke got Nash, and I actually thought it was just over. I thought
Yep.
Schalke would just win, but
Yep.
I mean, Seraphine is very strong, and a lot of them were very tanky, and the healing did get a bit too much. Like that, I heard some of your points before, right? You were discussing like the item things, right?
Yeah, we can bring up
Very
the items
early.
again so you can
Yeah,
look at it.
yeah, sure. Because there's one I remember. There's also like one very good like example I could use. I think it was someone in NA that played Jinx in one game, and enemy had like insane armor items, and he just didn't buy like Lord Dominic's Regards, which is like one of the best items in the game, and then he just ran out of damage. But for example, this game, you could make like a argument for Neon to build Mortal Reminder instead of GA because there's a lot of healing on the enemy team, and if
Yep.
he pops GA, he dies anyway. But I agree, like I don't think it's 100% the reason, or like a huge reason teams lose games. But if you're thinking at it from the perspective of min maxing, right?
Yep.
Why would you not do everything in your power to get like as much advantage as possible, right? But then again, like when you're in the moment and you're like, okay, Neon was probably thinking like, okay, I'm fed. I'm like pretty much half of my team's damage. If I die, we lose for sure. I already have a stopwatch, or I already have a BF sword, and right, like it's very like split second decisions, because when you base, you have gold. For example, you can have like, I don't know, 1.3k gold, right? So you buy BF sword, and then later realize, oh, I should actually build this, but then it's kind of too late, right? So I think if you could plan out builds from champion select the exact order, then it would help. But a lot of times stuff changes in game. For example, you could be very ahead in your team comp, and the only thing you need to do as an AD carry is survive. So then just buy GA third, right? But that is not standard, right? So a lot of stuff can change in game. But I agree that it's not like it's much more about like draft, team play, team fighting, just playing map well and laning than itemizing. But I think people bring it up because it seems like the easiest thing to fix. Like you just fix it by clicking a different item, right? So I think that's why
Well,
it's like such a
it's
big point of discussion.
it's also applicable because people watch esports a lot of the time to get better at the game,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
because that is your itemization is one thing that you can solve in solo queue, whereas
exactly.
your team composition is dictated by whatever your
Yeah,
random ass allies decide to play. And it's a lot harder to do team comp analysis because team comp analysis really only exists at the professional level because no one knows how to play their champions properly in solo queue together as a team. So it's not really applicable to anybody's solo queue experience, and the game is very different at the professional level. So I think people just kind of are attracted to the itemization or the runes because that's something that they are actually in control over within
Yep.
their own playing experience.
For sure, for sure. It's also, I think this is a big point, and a huge point is also, it's also the easiest thing to analyze, because when you're like a, let's say, gold player, right, and you watch pros play, it's the same like in American football when they're like, oh, I could have made this like kick, right? Uh, but they don't realize, like, they can easily say, oh, this guy just built the wrong item. They can't be like, oh, this guy misplayed lane, he should have played this, should have done this with the wave, because it's not shown on broadcast, right? um
Right.
you only see like very brief moments of like laning, and you don't see like how the player plays mechanically, like from a point of view, right? So you just notice on the you notice the most the easiest to notice thing, which happens to be itemization, and everybody just does the math, and they're like, okay, the math for this item is better here, so it's probably better. And I guess it's just the easiest for people to point out. That's why they
Well,
do it so frequently.
what I think is interesting about this specific situation, though, is that the math wasn't easier to point out in this case.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
know, people were saying, oh, Abadage, you know, I even posted on Twitter as a question. I said, I wonder what would have happened if Abadage had gone Leandries instead of Ludens. But there's some things I didn't know about Ludens on Azir, and that make Ludens probably the better choice. So first off, in the Reddit thread I linked earlier in chat, if you actually look at the damage, because most people on the side of G2 outside of Sion had pretty low MR,
MR,
the
yeah, yeah.
the flat penetration was actually better in most cases. And so why I was thinking that perhaps the Leandries would have been better, obviously because of the percent damage on the front line, but also because it would have applied grievous wounds for longer as Leandries ticked, right?
Mhm.
But here's something I didn't know, Crownshot, which is that Ludens counts each Sand Soldier attack as a separate spell for the purposes of the Ludens proc cooldown, which means that if you're hitting a bunch of people with Sand Soldiers, it significantly lowers the Ludens proc, which then procs across the entire team and continuously applies Grievous Wounds with Oblivion Orb. So in this scenario, I don't think that the Grievous Wounds is really an argument, because I went back and watched this game again with the knowledge that of what happened, right? Because I found it so interesting that so many people could be wrong about the scaling of this composition compared to the other one. And I came to the conclusion, because at no point in time also was G2 anywhere close to dying in the late game. Like, it didn't
Yeah,
matter if they
yeah,
had grievous
exactly,
wounds. They
exactly.
were still like over 50% HP. So it's like the itemization was not going to change the result. What may have changed the result was a desperate play by Schalke not to play a front-to-back team fight, but to try and assassinate Caps on the Lucian with the burst. And Ludens is objectively better at doing that. And so I think that was their only hope of winning, was to somehow get the Lucian out of the comp and destroy him. And I think I don't think that's easy, or maybe even possible with the composition that Schalke had, but they didn't even try either, is the thing. Like, they were playing these front to back team fights. They were playing in chokes a lot of the times and G2, to their credit, was playing incredibly well, where they're just this, you know, tightly compacted death ball, you know, moving through choke points. And it was very, very hard to even, you know, get onto Caps at all. So I don't know. What were your thoughts? Were you surprised about the scaling here? Because it felt like everyone was really shocked about the late game potential of this team composition.
Yeah, so what happens a lot of times is, in compositions like this, there's like, so first G2 was winning, then Schalke got back the control, but then slowly what happened was that you couldn't kill, like, Jinx was always notoriously bad against tanks, right? She's very good against squishes, where she can get a reset off and then pop off, but if she's hitting like 5k HP targets, and it's not like Azir has a ton of space in these fights, right? Like late game, Udyr, I mean, he's not gonna do much, right,
No.
to help him. And
I mean, neither
Jinx,
is Aatrox either, right?
yeah,
Aatrox is not a
exactly,
great
exactly,
late game team fighting champ.
exactly. It's just the rel pretty much, right? So you have like an Aatrox an Azir, like, and Jinx, who don't have that much space, because if they get flash eat by Gragas, if they get Seraphine ulted, they can get Lucian ulted, force back. So it just comes down to execution a lot of times. I think the game was for sure winnable by Schalke. I think messed up once where they like overchased someone on top side and then they just misplayed macro. Like I think G2 just played the map extremely well. I think the dragons were super close too, like the smites and everything. Like I think it was 3-3 in dragons, I think, and
Yep.
they maybe even got like Ocean Soul one team and but
No, it's Cloud Soul,
oh sorry, Cloud, yeah, Cloud. I
which
think
is
G2
also
ended up getting it.
extremely good on G2's composition.
Yeah, it's huge, right? Like on a Seraphine, on a Lucian, it's insane. So that also can shift stuff, and I think like when you look at it on paper, maybe you say, okay, what's their name? Sorry, Schalke win because they have more damage at like 4 or 5 items. But when it gets to super late game, it doesn't matter how much damage you have if your carries don't have space, right? And since the Sion pretty much scales infinitely, and Seraphine W heals for like 5k together late game, like 1k on each target, it can get like very very iffy. But like I personally also thought Schalke would win. Like I thought they outscaled. I thought when G2 died mid lane, I literally thought they're gonna lose. But I think then like Neon got caught once and lost some summoners, and then some team fights were very close, and it ended up stalling more. And the more the game stalls, the more it just comes down to like small things, like maybe one person gets caught, one person doesn't have flash. Because if like for example Jinx doesn't have flash this game and missteps once against like a Gragas who has a lower cooldown flash than her, right? Because he's playing Lucidity Boots, it can just be game over, right? So um, you can look at team comps on paper a lot of times, but a lot of times it comes down to like nuance, like a lot of small things in game for sure. There was also sorry, the one quick
Yeah.
thing. There was also one fight where Wunder I think survived with like 200 HP around Nashor, and maybe
Yep.
if he dies there and Jinx gets the reset, then maybe they actually win the game. But yeah, it was extremely close, actually extremely close.
We also talked a little bit before you got on about the changes in itemization, and I'm curious to hear your take on this as an AD carry player, because your itemization is as an AD carry doesn't have a whole lot of diversity right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
But you're encountering champions, and we see this more and more, like Udyr, who was never meta, but is because of Chem Tank and like Phase
yeah,
Rush, right?
yeah.
In this series, we saw Darius, who with Stridebreaker actually has a pretty long engage now, which is surprising, and it was played very well, I think, by Broken Blade in this series. How has this changed the way that you play the game from last year to this year significantly as an AD?
I mean, for example, Riot kind of ruined Ezreal, which was like one of the staple champs for so long, because he like you could play him Ludens, it's like AP at certain points, like the double tier. Then you could play him like Blade Trinity, which was like the standard AD. You could do like Iceborne, right? But now since they changed the personally, I don't like the itemization changes for ADC at least. I think it was unnecessary. I think it was very like you could play Gwynso last year, so you had like kind of free tier. You could play like some lethality champs, like for example Varus. Then you had like Ezreal, who was like a special champ, right? And then you had like on hit and crit, and people played both. You could play on hit like Kog'Maw, Vayne, or you could just play like normal crit AD carries. And what they changed now was at the start, everything else was crit was so bad that people either played lethality or what else? I think they played Ezreal with like a weird Hydra build. Then they buffed crit, and since Gale Force was so broken, then you just played Gale Force on every single champ because it was so overpowering. Uh, and then they nerfed that, and then um, they initially intended like the mythics to be like very versatile on every champ. But what happens is that one champion builds like the same mythic 80% of the time, and there's like even less diversity than before, because on some champions before you could maybe be like, oh, maybe I need runas this game, maybe I need PD, maybe Cannon is better, maybe I should go on hit this game on Varus, maybe I should go crit. But now I think they kind of killed that. um, so I like the old items more. I think most people actually do, from what I've talked to them. Uh, I feel like a lot of the items now are just like unnecessarily in the game. Like some of the effects are just weird. Like okay, like some of the only reasons why some bruisers were not overpowered is because they didn't have a gap closer, and then
Yep.
you just give them a gap closer just for fun, I suppose, which is like kind of weird. Also, like as I said, like Gale Force completely broke the game for a bit. Like every champion was building it. and you were just one-shotting people. It was an escape and it one-shot people, and it was a 1 minute cooldown, and I don't know, it was very bizarre, right? And I enjoy Ezreal a lot, but what they did to him now, where you're like forced to go this lethality build, or you actually completely skip mythics, you just go Muramana, Essence River,
Mhm.
and the like Cyril's Grudge is also very weird to me, because they specifically said, oh, we want every champion to be able to build multiple mythics, and then the most played AD carry out of 10 years, right? He's the most popular AD carry forever, is actually without a mythic, which is like super weird. So I don't know. I personally don't like them. The changes, I
Well,
think they were unnecessary. Yeah.
what's weird about what's happened to Ezreal is like when you talk about the lethality build with Duskblade, is that
Yeah.
Ezreal was always supposed to be a champ that would power up into the late game, and now he's like this weird early game,
Yeah.
armor
Yeah.
pen
Yeah.
champ who's just sucks ass in the late game.
Yeah.
So
It's like it was. I don't think it was ever intended to play that way, right? Like you don't buy any movement speed. You're a complete glass cannon. You can't kill tanks. You just. I don't know. It's kind of weird for sure. Like for my favorite Ezreal was the one with like Ludens. I felt like that one was the most. Was very fun to play. Maybe it was probably broken, so maybe that's also a bias there. But I think for sure, I don't really understand why they went for the changes, or um, like maybe I can understand why, but I don't think they were done that well. Like I think also mage items, they kind of messed up. Like they had to rebalance it for a long time, and I think I remember on release the Sunfire Cape was super strong. Um, I think last year was a bit better personally. I think the best year for balance was I think 2018 for AD carries at least. Because I distinctly remember so many champions being viable. You had like Kog'Maw, Vayne, Kai'Sa, who played on hit, right, with Guinsoo, and you had Tristana, Caitlyn, who played crit. You had Kalista, who had her like own Blade of the Ruined King build, like Varus as well. He could actually play 3 different styles. You had Ezreal, right? So I think that one was very, very diverse. But actually, like now the meta did kind of shift from only like Kai'Sa and Kai'Sa, Samira, and stuff like this to kind of other champs. So maybe slowly it will turn back. But I still think the item changes. I liked it more before personally.
Mm.
Mm.
So do you have any thoughts on, just to finish up on the series between G2 and Schalke? Like it felt like G2 really this should never have gone to a game 5. Like the
Yeah.
game 3 draft was kind of troll. The game 4 was decided more or less by that smite nonsense. And game 5 was actually very exciting and close. Do you think that G2 is still going to roll through the rest of the playoffs, given what
Mm,
happened?
yeah, I think they're still favored. I was personally also. I mean, I predicted the Rogue to win as well, right, against Mad. So I guess you saw a bit of a, maybe it's like first playoff series on stage after a long, long time. So teams maybe needed a bit of adjustment, and I do believe like people would talk very differently about the G2 series if they hit that smite and then got the dragon and got Ocean Soul and then won that game. Then people would be like, oh, they just trolled like the first draft and everything would be fine. I still think they're the better team for sure, and I think if you actually like remember last spring, they did lose to Mad Lions, right? Uh, the first series, and then they ended up winning the whole thing, and they even won finals 3-0. So I don't think. I don't think they will be in danger. I think they're still favorites to win the split for sure. So
I guess we
yeah,
can move over to talking about the Rogue Mad Lions series
sure.
then, because that was a pretty big upset. I know, Thorin,
Yeah.
like you were one of Orome's like top critics last year. What are your thoughts on Armit as a replacement? I'm curious.
I can see why they went for it if they wanted to play it through all 3 lanes. I get the logic, but like, here's the thing: I thought that was an example of a move that was like, it makes me wonder how much money Mad Lions have. Because if people don't know, in League of Legends and CSGO, they basically just work off trying to get rookie talent. Like, they don't sign big name players. So the problem I have is, like, I look at some of the talent that plays top lane in Europe, but that was a very strong position the last couple of years. So, like, to me, the idea that if you were a real contender, which this team even remains now, the idea you don't go for a big name there, I think that's a little bit suspect. But he seems to have done all right so far. I have to say, the real problem is I have a hard time actually, like, I guess Rogue was one of the teams I did evaluate, so beating them is a big deal. But basically, the only teams I really care about in LEC are G2 and Rogue. Like, so I don't know. This one's a bit brutal, I think.
I mean, I really like Elyoya as well, and I think
Mm.
for a rookie, his playoff performance on stage, because this is a guy that hasn't been on the LEC stage previously, shows up in playoffs and is, I think, the best, the best player in this entire series, was really surprising to me. I do think that I want to give credit because I think the Volibear pick is extremely strong versus Rogue, because it completely destroys their ability to turtle behind turrets. And I think that the way that the jungle Volibear was used, because remember they're playing on 11.6, the patch. So
Mhm.
it made his jungle clear a lot faster, because they uncapped some of his abilities damage against jungle monsters. And so I think coming into this series, it was a very intelligent pick. It's first off good, just straight up, but I think it's also especially good into Rogue's style, where if they're just gonna, kind of wait and hide behind these turrets until they scale into the late game or get into team fights, that wasn't an option because the Vol Barrel just dives them. So were you expecting this pick at all, Crownshot, or do you think it was a big factor in this series?
I mean, I heard of like after the patch notes, I was talking to some people and they said they think it's better now, but I didn't know it would have such a big priority, right? I think also what happened in the series was after they won the first game, playing Senna Cho against the Trash Jinx, where the Trash Jinx actually misplayed. Like they misplayed the early waves and then they actually died level 6. They maybe got like a false read on the matchup, because then the second game when Mad Lions played properly, Karzi was like 10-1 or something. Because what generally happens in that matchup, right? They also had Volibear, right? Which is a big part, as you said, because he's very strong early, right? Like can win skirmishes, has a stun, has a shield, all of this. So you have a Thresh Jinx and a Volibear against a Lilia Senna Cho, and the Thresh Jinx have control of the lane, of the wave early, and you force the Senna to take cleanse, and the Cho took TP. So you have Heal Ignite and a stronger early jungler against a TP cleanse Senna Cho. So what happened was they just hook, they killed the Senna, then they almost killed the Cho, then they kill the Senna again, then they just gank, they win the 3-3, then pretty much the game gets blown open. And then the Jinx just carries, and then Rogue had to adapt and ban the Jinx. I was one of the people who has been like talking about the champ for a while now. I think I played it against you 2 weeks ago. I mean, we didn't win, but I thought I saw potential in this champ because the way team fights are played now is like very front to backish. Like there's always front lines and back lines, and uh, but a lot of times you can just one shot targets, and obviously if you get one shots with Jinx, the fight is over, right? Also, she does very well into everything that people play right now in lane, like Tristana, Kai'Sa, all of this. Um, so that's what kind of surprised Rogue, I think, and then it caused them to actually ban it. And then the third game, um, what happened was I'm just trying to remember the team comp. I think they had Hecarim, Sion,
They
Azir.
they
Yeah,
yeah, they moved, and then Mad Lions moved to the Vayne Alistair lane
yeah, Vayne.
versus
So
Kai'Sa.
exactly. So I think it also shows a big point in this meta that I believe is that last pick ADC can have huge value. What I've been seeing constantly in meta is Hecarims, tank supports, and Sion blinds, right? So what was the perfect champion to this? Like Vayne Kog'Maw, right? And somebody actually plays it. It's also good into Kai'Sa because it like outscales her, and it can actually like play lane fine against her.
So we saw Vayne Alistair versus
Yeah,
Kai'Sa and an engaged support in both
yeah,
G2 versus Schalke and Mad Lions versus
yes,
Rogue. So in G2 it was Kai'Sa Rel, and
yeah,
in Rogue it was Kai'Sa Rakan. So what is
exactly.
it about that makes the Vayne Alistair lane very strong into Kai'Sa? How do you play that out, Crownshot?
Okay, so like generally, Kaiser Khan has a advantage for sure until level 3. You could actually see it because they did manage to kill level 1 because Karzi got hit by like 2 Ws. But um, what generally happens against Alistar lanes is that he can't contest until he's level 3, so you can pretty much do whatever you want until that point. Um, but what happened in the G2 against Schalke series was they stayed in lane, and then instead of just letting the wave push back, they they let Rel Vayne, um, sorry, Alistair Vayne, I believe, get level free, and then Alistar just comboed, and then they eat into the wall, right? Like the amount of CC chain you have is absurd, right? So what happened in the Rogue series as well was Hans got a kill, but he didn't get his base off, and then he got stuck in lane, and Inspired showed topside, killing the Aatrox. But since Hans actually didn't get a base, Mad Lions got a slow push on their tower, and I believe Volibear at that point was level 6, or maybe level 5, and they just dove. They eat the Kaisa into the wall with Alistar combo. She just died, and there's pretty much no counterplay to that, right? So um, Vayne does very well with tanky supports that can like set up her damage, right? And that's pretty much all that's played now. Like Vayne struggles very very hard into like Lulus and range supports that just poke her, and she can't farm with her low range, right? But if people play the champions they're playing right now, then Vayne is very dangerous. And even though he was set kind of behind that game, I believe he was like 1-4 or 2-4 that game. Um, I think also a key pick that I've been also talking about on analyst desk is Oriana, because I think all of these games go to team fights, and this champion is just the best team fighting mage, right? Because it creates so much space, especially with champions like Volibear, Hecarim, tanky supports. Um, so I think Mad Lions was playing it most of the games, I believe, and Rogue went for the more Azir approach, right? To just play Azir into it and I guess push a bit and um, get ahead in lane. But I think what happened was Rogue just misplayed too much, and Mad Lions team comes just outscaled. And then the fourth game, mm,
Yeah,
I
Rogue
also
entirely changed their approach, though. That's
yeah
what's
yeah
crazy,
yeah
right? Is
completely
that
yeah
that says that they were just not confident in playing these kind of like mid lane mages scaling comps, and they thought they had to do something different, which was surprising to me, right? And they
yeah
they want the Lucian counter matchup up against the Twisted Fate, and they want the early game presence of Inspired on Nidalee, right? And they want the kind of dominant lane of Aphelios Thresh as well.
yeah. And I mean, it went great at the start, right? The Aphelios was 5-0, like
Yes.
absolutely like stomping. They were like 4K up with 3 dragons, or maybe even 5K up, like 3 dragons, the fourth one spawning, and then they just misplayed. So what happened with that dragon was I think Sion and someone else like got slapped by Lilia, while two of them like I guess they just wanted to zone while the others did the dragon. And a big problem there was actually Hans's guns were bad. He had like the purple and the green gun, which is like the lowest damage in the game, right? It's more like controlish guns. So he had like lowest DPS possible for that fight, and it was just very fractured. And then they lost that fight, and um the game stalled, and then the Urgot was actually like just huge. I think also a champion
Yes.
that is very underrated in this meta, because it's very good into tanks, which are played constantly. And if you one shot one target, he pretty much wins the fight alone because of his ult. Um, and what happened that game was Hans got super fed, and his third item was Infinity, because he just assumed, I guess, that he's ahead enough to just one shot people with that, right? But then the Urgot got so accelerated that he was like 7-1, and he was extremely tanky. Nobody could kill him because they had like Lucian Aphelios, which is two like physical champs, right? And then what happened was the longer the game goes, Aphelios is a champ that requires very um, like the opposite of chaos, right? He needs a team fight that is front to back. From one side, the enemy is going into him, no flanks. He needs a tank line. He needs clear targets to hit, right? And he needs good weapons. And what happened the later the game went is I remember they defended the Elder push, and then Mad Lion started Nash, and then Rogue had to enter, and was actually Infernal Soul map as well, which is like the worst one for front to back comps, because it creates multiple flank positions, right? So what happened was TF just ulted behind the Aphelios, gold carded him, then the Kaisa flew in, then the Urgot is ulting there, and it was like they created more chaos, right? Um,
What I
yeah,
loved about this composition, and I know we were just kind of talking about itemization and how it I don't think it would have changed the outcome of G2 versus Schalke, but the Shirelius pickup on Humanoid here on TF was
yeah,
was actually the right. So in the same way that I think in the game 5 between G2 and Schalke, it came down to team composition and how they played it out. And like they had to use Abadage to like kill Cap, so they had to like come on a flank or something to disrupt G2's like death ball. In this game, what I loved about it is that they realized that like, okay, so you have a Lucian and you have an Aphelios and you have a Nidalee. So you have these 3 kind of like poke long range
Yeah.
champions. So if we build Shirelias on TF and come from behind, so if Urgot and Alistair and Lilia are CCing the Thresh and Scion, there's no protection from EF that's just running at you from behind. And I
Yep.
thought that was a really great job of Mad Lions and Humanoid to identify how the team comps interacted with each other and then itemize successfully to activate their advantage in that team comp difference. And I think to me, this is like the end game of this itemization rework, right? This should be the purpose at a professional level, is if you have more of these items actives, to take 2 team comps and figure out how you can use item actives to achieve your composition's goal versus the other composition. And to me, this was a really beautiful game at illustrating that.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Like they recognize, okay, the way we beat them is we break their formation, right? Because they need to poke and they have no peel. If they get engaged, or Nidalee is not gonna help the Aphelios. Lucian is not gonna like Lucian is also squishy, right? Sion can peel to a certain degree, but like you can like fly past him with a Kaisa and a TF easily, right? And then the Thresh obviously can't. He's a good peeler, but he can't peel alone. So it was like super nice adaptation. I thought that game was over, but then they slowly started going back, and um, what happened was they were just looking for gold cards in fights, and as I said, like creating chaos, right? Because Aphelios comps, as I said, they need very controlled gameplay, and if it explodes into like an Urgot getting an ult reset and a Kaisa ulting in with TF, it's just over instantly, right? Obviously, also Lilia will do much more as the game goes on than a Nidalee. That's just how the champs work in the specific team comps.
Yeah,
So
AoE
By the
CC
way,
turns out good late.
one thing we need to talk about here, because this is now like a disturbing trend, is this is twice now Rogue has done this, when they come in looking awesome from the regular season. They come in, remember, as one of the top fucking seeds, and they're blowing these seeds every time, guys. Like, those seeds in theory put you like into the winners final if you're just like a competent team, because you're getting the team that's like a 3rd or 4th best seed. So they've blown it twice now, and it's the same scenario each time. These motherfuckers are front runners, and they have one way of playing League of Legends every split. And if anyone figures that out, they have no response.
Well,
like, what's mad is if people don't know this, right? There's a very like subtle point that a lot of people will miss from like a sport. Like, obvious examples would be like UFC or NBA, right? If you ever see someone who has like a famously amazing move, so in basketball it could be a specific shot, in MMA it could be a certain punch or something. You can't get by just on that, because obviously the competent coaches immediately tunnel in on that. They're like, right, here's the counters to what you do to that. So every great player has to have a second counter, which is the counter to whatever they throw at your original move. And if you're a really great player, by the way, like Michael Jordan, eventually your counter just becomes your main move, because everyone does that against you. And if you have like a second counter, there basically is no way to play you. Rogue just has one way of playing, and if you figure it out, they're just like, oh well, you win, I guess. See ya.
But here's the thing, Thorin. In best of ones, being very good at one thing when a team has to prepare for
Yep.
2 to 3 opponents every week, depending on whether it's a super week or not, is very effective at winning regular season games. When you have a couple of weeks to come in and analyze Rogue style and come in with this Volibear pick that is very disruptive to them, come in, with this like TF build that's really unique, you can get that read and actually prepare for one specific opponent. And I think that's the downfall of having multiple opponents that you're facing every week in best of ones, is you're testing for something else, right? If you are a team preparing for the regular season, it's great to be Rogue. Oh, we're very solid in our own style. We're playing our way. We can execute this very consistently. It's good in the meta, right? But when it comes to an actual preparation for a 5-game series, you can just toss all of that out, because if somebody like Mad Lions comes in with all these like really smart counter picks or like ways to disrupt your style, this is what happens, right? So I think it's a flaw in the system. Frankly, you're testing for 2 different things. Do you feel this way as a player in the LEC, Crownshot?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also one quick point I'd like to mention is that they played online best of ones, and then it's Trimby's rookie split, and then he played on stage.
True.
And I think
Yep.
Kaiser actually like outperformed him. Like, I think Trimby is a good player, but I think Kaiser
Well,
they're
Kaiser
better
did
than him.
play way
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
That's not even
So
a
like
question.
I think that's also a big part. But I completely agree. I think like in a perfect world or whatever, you would have best of threes in regular season for sure. Because like probably the most fun part of competitive league is evolving your draft and your responses and your testing your champion pool to the limit, right? Like, so let's say let's use the example of Schalke against G2. So first game, I think they trade Zaya Kaisa. Okay, it doesn't work. Second game, they do something similar, it doesn't work again. Then third game, okay, they're like, okay, like screw this, right? Let's just go Jinx. Okay, they go Jinx, it goes well. Then G2 bans it. Then they go the Vayne into Kaisa. Then they show another response. And then fifth game, they go Jinx, like another pick, right? And it's similar in this series where they ended up playing the Jinx as a response, and it did well. So then it got banned first three, right? So one of the responses you prepared was so strong that the enemy actually had to ban it in first three, and then you get tested even more. Then and then they played the Vayne into Kaisa as well. It's actually very similar, both same champions in both series, but um, it really tests your depth, like champion pool depth as a player, like best of ones don't, because in best of ones teams will just draft for comfort. If you actually watch most of the best of ones that were played, it was literally Kaisa blind every game into Zaya, Kaisa Zaya, Kaisa Zaya, or Kaisa Tristana every game. But here it actually evolves because people are like, okay, like screw this, right? Like we have to surprise them somehow. We have to use something that's non-conventional, or that we didn't play before on stage, because obviously like they practice this in scrims, right? But I think this is the most beautiful part about competitive league, is evolving over like a best of five or like a very deep playoff series or like worlds, where the patch is constantly the same and the
Yep.
game evolves like inside the same patch, right? I don't know, let's say Jinx is broken for 2 weeks, and then people are like, okay, but of course it's strong, right? But there has to be responses to this, and then they actually find them. It was similar last split in summer, where because the patch was the same for a long time, and people like they just started playing like Twitch Rakan, right, as a blind at Worlds. Uh, and then people were like, okay, like everybody's picking this. What is good into this? And then you just have like a LPL team just locking in Draven and trading sides level one and completely destroying the Twitch, right? And then people are like, oh, actually we can't blind it. So I think this is very nice. A big problem of LEC is also like the patch hits in a week, but it doesn't change for LEC because it hits on Wednesdays, right? Uh, so and it's like a 1 week delay until it changes. So you're kind of playing solo queue on a different patch, but scrims on a patch before. So I think people are a bit like they don't have time to innovate, right? They rather just play comfort, which they know works. And obviously, as you said, you have to prepare for like 2 to 3 different opponents. And obviously, when you need to do that, it's always easier to just stick to what you know, right? To what you know works. So I think for sure it's a big part, like the best of five against best of one narrative, and offline against online. By the way, I think again people don't realize. Sorry, just quick point. I mean, fans do not realize how big the difference is between playing offline and online. It's absolutely like massive. Uh, it's like screaming at your home or like gaming house with your own setup, and then playing on stage where it's colder, the monitor is different, it's completely different. And then playing with a stadium full of fans is a step above that as well. So it's a huge difference.
Oh yeah, I've shared my experiences in the past, even when I've done like show matches for League of Legends or Overwatch League or whatever in a studio with fans. Like, so for example, for me, I've never been nervous casting or doing anything ever, even in front of stadiums full of people, because it's a comfort zone that I've developed my entire life since I was a child being on stage. But when I had to like sit and play in front of people, like I froze up a lot of the time, and like usually I'm very communicative, like shot calling or providing information, and like my brain just shuts down in that situation. So I know I've had those experiences myself, and I think it just takes a long time to get used to them, especially
Yeah.
for
I
some
didn't know
people
you
at
were
least.
related to Promiscu. I've heard when Promiscu touches like the seat at LEC, it's like if you play that sequence from Limitless where he takes the pill but in reverse, it's like he just all his brain fucks just shut down. What's going on? He's, you know, he can't really think properly. He's not a genius anymore. Like nothing works. Because actually, I'll tie this into what we were talking about. This is why a lot of people were telling me, like early in the split, like, why did you make that tweet about how you wish they'd kept Vander instead of Trimby? It's because, like, mate, what's the upside? Like, maybe the Trimby guy, he seemed to have decent mechanics. Maybe his mechanics are better, right? That wasn't what Vander was winning or losing you the game with when you had him in the team. The point is, when you get to a scenario like this, the other thing that sucks about Rogue is why I say they're front runners is because, mate, when they do get figured out and they're down in a game, they're just fucking gonna lose. Like, you don't worry about this team like being super dangerous or, oh my god, they're gonna fight back. They have no mental strength whatsoever. They're so fucking brittle. The second they start to crack, they just crumble entirely. So to me, the more veterans you can have in that equation, the more chance you have of potentially coming back. Usually.
Even in game 4, when Hansama had the huge lead on Aphelios, it still felt like they weren't playing confidently. It felt weird watching them play and watching them play the map.
Look how good their players are, dude. If I was their coach, I mean, like, have you actually looked at our team? Like, we have one of the best teams in the entire league, every position almost. Like, why wouldn't you be confident with those players?
Yeah, it seems like
this guy was in fucking Turkish league. Smash his head in. He is. Oh no, I'm there. That guy is trash. You were playing against Smeb, motherfucker. This guy's from Turkish league. Trash this motherfucker. See?
I think also there's a trap that that teams run into because this is the second year in a row where we keep talking about Rogue's regular season performance, and part of being a great playoff team, and I think that this applies to traditional sports that have extended playoffs like NBA or NHL, right, where you're playing a best of 7 series, because it's very similar, like League of Legends to the sport. You go from best of 1, multiple opponents in a week, to like, or baseball, like, here's just 7 games against the same opponent. And the thing about regular season is that smart teams know that the only thing that matters is getting to the playoffs, not winning every game in the regular season. And so sometimes you just have to take a week if you're a professional team in these structures and say, hey, we may not have the best performance this week, but we have to test new styles. We have to get comfortable playing a different way of this game. We have to, do something weird that's going to make our opponents potentially like psych themselves out when they're preparing for us in the playoffs. And I never feel that Rogue actually does that. I feel like they put a premium on winning their best of 1 regular season games. And that, I'm not going to say they haven't diversified, because they have a little bit. Like game 4 is obviously like not a traditional Rogue style. They have played other looks this season, but it never feels like they're actually comfortable in those other looks. Right. And at the end of the day, if they're not winning with the control mages, then they're just not going to win at all. Right. So I don't know. I think that perhaps it's a philosophical issue about how this team should perform, and that they're not being maybe experimental enough in the regular season. And people will meme on G2 for winning or for losing random ass games, but G2 is always like, they're the mad scientists, just always experimenting with stuff. And it really does benefit them by the time playoffs roll around.
And they always win when it matters as well. There's the other thing. Like they don't let it go too far, do they? They know when to sort of reel it in.
Maybe also, I mean, I have like a question, maybe like, so do you think if Rogue end up still winning the best of 5 they need to play now, and then winning the next one and going to play finals, do you think they're like, or like, let's say they are third, do you think that's acceptable for their regular season performance, or would you
no way, like more? Mate, listen, I could forgive it in summer because it was still online and, it was the first split they got like super good. You've never tasted it before. This is the second split in a row. And if you look at the regular split, they were supposed to be the team that maybe could even beat G2. They were the only one you could kind of like hope they were. So the idea they're not going to come at least top 2, like that has to be a failure in my opinion. I don't give a fuck how inexperienced some of the players are. Like that. This is the LEC now. Like, look, it's not like Mad Lions is full of veterans. They also have a bunch of rookies. So to me, I know everyone's going to say like, but what about Fnatic and stuff? Mate, this is the split just like last split. You're supposed to place ahead of Fnatic if you're Rogue. Like, it's your time,
To be fair, I guess placing high in regular season actually gives like huge playoff advantages, right? Because
for sure.
If you're a second seed, you keep you watch like they skip ahead one series now, even though they lost. I guess that's a big advantage. I mean, for sure. I would say a big part is just the difference in best of 5, best of 1s, because in best of 1s, the most consistent team that has like the most polished style wins. But then when a team has literally 2 weeks to prepare for you, they will find counters to your style. I mean, like that's the whole point of league, right? Nothing is like unbeatable, no champion. I mean, very rarely, or no style. Like everything has counters. So when teams have a long time to prepare for you, they will for sure. So then your depth gets tested much more, and you're like maybe like mental for it and stuff. Where like as I said, like even the G2 against Schalke game, G2 was the only one constantly like clawing back, right? Like I really thought the Vayne Kaisa game was completely over, and then they should have. They were actually about to win it, and it was like 6-0-6. I really thought it was very hard for them to win, but they clawed back, and it was the same in the Mad Lions Rogue one. Mad Lions was the one constantly like fighting back in the fourth game, right? Like looking for flanks, looking for this, and constantly. mm Trying to get back into the game. I think it was also in a different game where Rogue was like defending mid and Azir was pushing top, and then they just collapsed on mid lane with a volley by ult, I think, and they dove as well. So like I felt like Mad Lions was maybe a bit more proactive, because even in the first game they were the ones doing the proactive plays. I think they just misplayed them, like mis-executed, but they were still like going for a lot of fights and always kind of doing the first move maybe. So it benefited them for sure.
Well, I think that that's also where I think the LEC playoffs, it really proved that you the direction that analysis needs to go to explain what's going on, because again, it was like the Shirelius TF, and it was the interaction combined with the items and these compositions that allowed some of these comebacks to occur. Like the composition from G2 allowed the comeback to occur in that game when they were down early in game 5, right? And
Mhm.
I just want to hear more about that, and I think that we need to kind of collectively, like everybody in the scene needs to take a step back and say, okay, our rubric for evaluating a lot of these games is incorrect when we all get it wrong about G2 versus Schalke. Everybody gets it wrong. Nobody's saying, hey, G2 is actually going to win this in the late game. To me, that's a huge issue that the collective groupthink has there's some deep flaw there, right? Some deep
Yeah.
flaw that could ever occur. And this is the first time that I've been aware of something like this happening in League of Legends, where like literally everybody's wrong.
Yeah, I mean it's a I mean it's like an exciting time where like uh, games can be so close that they're literally decided of extremely small like it's good for the game, I would say, right? Like where everybody's like, okay, that like Schalke has outscaled, like there's no way. And of course you always account for, okay, like they threw whatever, but the fact that G2 can actually like come back from a position where pretty much 80% of people would say they're at a disadvantage, and Mad Lions as well in their game, right? I think if you put in the like the game predicting programs. I think they have it in LPL,
It's
or
like a
like the bot.
simulation version or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, like the win rate simulator, right? That some like
Oh, okay.
people use. I think like he would put like 80% win rate to Rogue that game, right, or very high. So the
Yeah.
fact that Mad Lions and G2 can win from those situations is super
Okay.
exciting, and it's
To
very
be
Well,
fair,
nice.
Quickshot here is, I mean, Crownshot rather, is actually part of one of the most popular groupthinks in the entire world of League of Legends. It's sort of like, it's kind of like the concept of a hedge fund, you know? LS is the hedge fund leader. You know,
Well,
he
well,
scouts out the new properties. And then,
no,
you
no.
know,
Well, to be fair, I disagree. Like a lot of, I mean, like I do not agree with everything it says,
of
right? I just,
course, it's just
no,
yeah,
it's
role
no,
just a
play.
yeah,
joke.
I know. But what I'm saying, like, is
Yeah, go on.
I think it's good to have a discussion, because it's good to have disagreements, and uh, because it propels the game forward, right? Like somebody can say something, and if you know, like this is wrong, and if you actually say why it's wrong and why you think the other thing is right, then it drives progress, right? Um, so I think it's very nice that these games go the way they do. Even though like some teams like there's no way like Schalke lose now, they outscaled for sure, um, and
Yeah.
then they
No, I
actually
think
do,
it's
right?
great.
So
But I
it's
think,
very
what's
nice.
interesting about when you talk about kind of modeling leads and like providing like, oh, okay, so this team is X far ahead in terms of gold or experience or whatever, and then translating that into a percent chance of victory. The interesting thing about that is that when you introduce all of these item actives into the game, it's very hard to quantify the value of like a
Yeah.
stride breaker movement ability, or the Shirelia's speed up on Twisted Fate, or, you know, even the value of a stride breaker is, one might say, like, more valuable on Darius than other champions, right?
Yeah.
Or Chem Tank is way more valuable on Udyr than even other Chem Tank user champions, or
Yeah.
like Skarner, right? So it becomes very weird to do mathematical models when there isn't a hard number that you can like pin on some of these item actives, because it changes so drastically from champion to champion, and even from situation to situation. Like, do you build Shirelias on Twisted Fate in most other occasions? Probably not. But it's
Yeah.
very good in that specific instance. And so I think the more we see these these item actives being more thoroughly explored and exploited, the harder it's going to be to reliably kind of predict based on math how the game might play out, right?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you can't quantify what the gold value of getting like a peak at 20 minutes is, right? Or like
Right.
getting a. I mean, you kind of can, but the value is like can be like close, like huge, right? But you can't ever quantify it. Or like if the camp tank makes you catch someone and then get Nash, or if the Shrelia makes you do that, or if I don't know, Gale Force makes you dodge an Oriana ult and win a team fight, you can't. Predict that through builds, right? Um, through math, I mean, sorry. So yeah, that's
Yep.
I can from that, like I love more active items. Like that's why I
Me
think
too. I was
Dota is
pushing for this
very
from
nice.
year from Dota. I was
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
please
In Dota,
stop with stat sticks. Please
yeah,
add
exactly, exactly.
abilities.
Like stat checking is boring, right? Like you having Kraken Slayer, and because you have Kraken Slayer, you free shot the enemies. Much less fun than having Gale Force, for example. Or like in Dota, you have uh item that refreshes all your cooldowns, or like a flash, or like I don't know. I haven't actually played it in a while, but I know there's a insane amount of active items there. Right? Like, of course, it would be hard to balance if you introduce them all instantly, but I think it's for sure a good direction that they're introducing more, for sure.
All right. Do we want to talk just briefly about the Fnatic SK, because this was your former team,
Sure.
Crownshot?
Yeah.
I think I think SK like probably performed. I thought this series overall was pretty good. I thought
Mhm.
Blue was certainly a weak point, and I found a lot of his decisions questionable
Mm.
over the course of the series. And but also I think Fnatic like vastly overperformed my expectations in many ways as well. I think we saw a very good series out of Niski in particular, which I think
Mm.
they need, because if anything, they've kind of lacked the carry power that they needed in order to make a deep run.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would like point out is it was kind of a statement series, I guess, for upset. I mean, I like before the series, I predicted that Fnatic would win because the way SK plays is very around treats, right? And your support is unlocked if he has freedom to be unlocked, right? If he's fine in lane and all of this. But the way Fnatic botlane plays is they do not give you breathing room, right? And you saw it. I think upset average like plus 25 average at 15 minutes, and absurd gold lead. They were killing them 2v2 every game. Um, I kind of predicted that because I personally think Jesu's laning is a big issue he has. Um, and a Fnatic is the best, like maybe besides G2, like in lane. Yeah, right. I mean, G2 doesn't play for lane that much with Reckless Mickey. Mickey plays more for roams to mid lane, but Fnatic like really punish your mistakes. Like they will dive you level 3, they will flash in level 1 as they did, right? They were literally killing them level 1, and I think that was a big reason. I also think Niski for sure played better than Blue, and I also think Selfmade was extremely active, right? People were kind of saying, oh, Selfmade can only farm and play for himself, but I think he did show that he can act like, because I remember playing with him in 2019, and I can tell you some of the like gank angles he saw on Rek'Sai were absurd, right? Or also on Trundle, he would like flash over the Dragon Pit and then gank around. Or one of the things that I've actually seen no one else do but him was he came to lane bush and then he flashed from one lane bush to the other and wait there and gank the enemy, right? So you could actually see a bit of his creativity that maybe was a bit lost when he was just playing Graves, Lilia, and farming constantly, right? So it was actually very nice to see.
This team, by the way, is an example of exactly why I also don't want people gambling on rookies unless it's the only gamble available. Because on paper, this was like they'd scored massively. They took a bunch of players where basically they weren't like the number one person. Of course, they wouldn't be on fucking SK Gaming. So they got all these players where almost every move they made worked. Like bringing in Treats, totally different player. Blue actually was looking pretty good during the first part of the split. Like Jezu looked all right for most of it. He was in a pretty good lane overall. But then you get to the playoffs. Like this team doesn't even show up. Like none of these players fucking made it to the game. So like this is for me why even if you gamble and you win, like it's not the same as having proven players. Like this team had to go through a loss like this, and now they have to wait a whole split for another chance. So this is why, in my opinion, you got to have some veterans. You can't just have all fucking rookies.
And Treats
What, the
is
odds
basically
4 people,
a
5 people
rookie,
don't
by the
show
way.
up?
He played
He
like a
is.
few games with TSM.
I've said this
right?
before. I don't give a fuck what the logic of Riot is. Like the word rookie hasn't changed in the English language. Like if you've played like 1.5 years once, like you have a fucking rookie. Like it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, Mad Lions are rookies. I don't give a fuck that they played like 1 year or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like Genax was performing like the best, and he has the most experience, I guess, and he doesn't even have that much. I mean, he played mid for 2 splits and on top for 1 split, so this is
Right.
his fourth split, so like second year, I guess.
I mean, if anything, though, I
Yeah.
would say that moving to Gen X to top has been highly
No,
successful.
it's a
Way
good.
more
It was a
successful
good
than I
move.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, For it fit his champion pool better. But that's what I'm saying. Like he was the most experienced one, and he was the one that stayed the most calm and performed in team fights because he was getting like ganked a lot by self-made, and a lot of times they used Herald top and took his tower, but he was actually like always staying relevant and just picking up free kills with like Aatrox, and he was playing very well, and with Urgot as well. So maybe there's something there, guys. I'm not sure what it is.
Crownshot. Right, real talk. It's up to you
Mm,
if you want to answer this question. Right?
sure.
Did you feel good when they lost?
A bit, yeah, a bit.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I mean,
Fair
I'm not
enough.
gonna lie. Yeah, I
Fair
mean,
enough.
what
Yeah.
would I lie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Why would
mean,
you?
yeah, I mean, also self-made is my friend, so I guess that's also. I mean, who am I
Okay,
lying
there
to?
we
You
go.
know? Yeah,
There
that's
we
PR
go.
answer. Yeah, I felt very nice for self-made, so that's why I was
Okay.
saying.
Fair play.
Well, it's also interesting to me, and before we kind of leave the LEC conversation with some predictions,
Sure.
because I think this was the least interesting series of the
Mm,
three, and I do want to talk about LCS a little bit.
sure.
What was your kind of opinion on Limit as well? Because Limit obviously had a fucking
Yeah.
great performance with Schalke. He was your teammate, your
Yeah.
lane mate last year. Um, have you been impressed by Limit? I'm surprised SK didn't keep Limit, even though Treats did
Mm,
perform pretty well over the course of the regular season. It was obviously like a hot topic of conversation a lot of the time. Because it wasn't just you that SK moved on from, it was Limit as
mm.
well. And it seems like both of you guys have performed well on your own on new teams.
Yeah, I mean, I saw potential in Limit even like in spring last year. We were not that good together, but I saw like mm, good tendencies, right? That just needed to be he needed to be polished more. And in summer, I think we were very good as a bot lane, and now he stepped even more into his own right. And apparently, he's like he's the one calling a lot of fights and a lot of things in game, right? So it means he stepped up in that regard too. I think the meta fits him very well. Uh, I think the meta right now fits like supports who are very creative and bold, right, in their decision making, like good at finding flanks, good at fighting weird angles. Sorry, finding on Alistar, and he was always like very good at this. So for sure, like he played very well. I obviously talked to him, and I told him, like he shouldn't feel bad about losing because he actually played very well, and people are actually noticing it now that he's a very good player. So for sure, I'm actually not sure about the other series. Like I think it's actually very hard to predict. Um, I would still probably put Fnatic over Schalke in their series. I don't know if we already came to the predictions, or maybe I'm
Go
skipping
for it.
ahead a bit.
Go
Yeah, you
for
can
it.
Yeah,
do
I
it.
mean,
Go for it.
so it's wait, so it's Fnatic Schalke and then winner against Rogue, right? So I mean, I think Fnatic will win. It might be super close. The thing is now, I think Schalke had to show more against G2 than Fnatic showed against SK, right? That's
Yeah.
one thing. Like Schalke went to the brink, right? Well, Fnatic they kind of played the same every game.
I would also argue that this should not have been a close series between Schalke and G2. And
Mm,
G2, the comp was questionable. I think the comp
mm.
was very limited in terms of its ability to win and
They
execution
don't
heavy.
draft that comp if it's 1-1, put it that way.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
I
also,
mean,
I also think that Schalke should have lost game 4, but
Yeah,
it was the Baron smite that messed things up, right?
yeah.
And credit to Schalke for sticking in this series after being down 0-2. Like, they were very close to the reverse sweep. So I don't want
Mm,
to take that fortitude away from them, but I think realistically, G2 was partially responsible for this series being close, and it was classic G2 bullshit that made it close, right? So I don't know. I agree. I think it's difficult to see Schalke coming out, but I don't know. It's like maybe 60-40 Fnatic would be my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, also like the Fnatic game that they threw, they were in like control for sure. They were like super ahead, like 5K, 6K, and then I think Niski went a bit too deep and died, and then they went too deep again, and then like it could have been a 3-0. Like that's what I'm trying to say, right? So I
Yes.
think Fnatic is still like you can't deny that their players were either all in finals, not like the world finals, LEC finals. Niski won LCS. Um, their bot lane is playing at a very like high level right now, um, which is I think very important right now because uh, a lot of like all the supports are playmakers right now, right? So if your Alistar has like freedom on the map, and if your ADC is fed, then games are easy, right? Or not easy games. Like you have a lot of control in the game, so I think that is good for them. So I would for sure favor them. And then let's assume they win here. Then they're playing Rogue. And last time Fnatic played Rogue last summer, they actually 3-0'd them, but they just prepared very well for their style. It might be a bit different now, but I still think the team that doesn't play has an advantage, right? So I would still value Rogue to win probably, just because they will probably have like a full series to look at how Fnatic plays. And then I predict G2, right, to beat Mad Lions. So then it's gonna be a rematch of Rogue Mad Lions, which maybe it's a bit of a tough one to call. I think it might be a bit of a wake up call to Rogue. So then I'll just still have Rogue favored, and then I just have G2 in the finals favored again.
I mean, another thing about the matchup too is that Fnatic or Schalke, one of them is going to have to play 2 best of 5s this coming weekend because they play one on Friday, and then the winner will play Rogue on Sunday. So,
Mm.
you know,
Oh,
one of the things that Rogue benefited from, as we talked about, was the fact that Mad Lions had 2 weeks to prepare for them. A team's going to have 2 days to prepare for Rogue. So I think it's a lot harder to beat Rogue if you only have 2 days to prepare for them, right? Because
yeah,
it's going to be basically, you know, especially if Schalke wins, Fnatic and Rogue styles are very different, right? Schalke
yeah,
trying to like beat both of them is going to be super hard.
thing
Super
is,
hard.
I actually do hope that Fnatic beats Schalke, because basically the best playoff matchup now is probably when Rogue plays against Fnatic in that lower
yeah,
bracket match. Because
Agreed.
like after seeing how the upper bracket went, like if I'm even the Fnatic players, especially the experienced ones, I'd be loving that matchup. Like, let's fucking
yeah,
play them now. Like, this is perfect time to play them when they're coming off a series like that. Like, now they look beatable. So if you beat them, the finals are available at that point in time. So if you could do the like lower bracket runnings Fnatic, listen, you might not have Reckless. You're probably not going to win the league anymore. That'd be pretty epic though, to do a full fucking lower bracket run. And as soon as you win that game, it's plausible. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And plus, if Rogue actually can win it, maybe they can do something in the final then. Maybe they get their mental together.
Yeah, it's true. I agree that match is probably going to be one of the better ones in the playoffs as a result. But
yeah.
I think it's a lot harder to beat Rogue because of the way that the scheduling works out,
Mm.
based around these playoffs in this week at least.
For sure, for sure. Especially as you said, since the styles are so different. You obviously for the week you have to prepare for the first opponent you play, right?
Yep.
You can't just assume you're gonna win. So then you prepare like one way, and then if you win, then you have like maybe one day of scrims for
Yeah.
the next one. So
Oh,
Yeah,
by the
and-
way, after all that shit with like the fucking Schalke series, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, I hope G2 gets their shit together." I hope they don't. I hope they play mad disrespectful. I hope they just pick stupid shit. I hope they pick like picks that don't even make sense in top lane. That's right. I hope the winner bracket final is the coach of them and the style of GT. It's mac and cheese. That's what I'm hoping for. Mac and cheese.
There you go.
Quick and
There
easy
you
game.
go.
Just flip the TV on, watch for 25 minutes, and then fuck off and find out why everyone was wrong on Alice's stream later on the VOD. Twitch Primes.
I am actually very curious about that because I thought Mad Lions did such a good job of preparing for Rogue that now I'm really
You've
curious.
got to do
what that
something
series
cool
is
now,
gonna
haven't you? You
look
can't
like,
just play
right?
straight up. Yeah, let's be
yeah.
real. You can't. This isn't a series you go into and just play your perfect draft from game one, do you? You got to try something wacky in the first couple of games.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think that could be really fun.
I mean,
I
remember,
love-
that's like one of those areas where, dude, the fact that Armor actually was able to win on Wukong, well, there's that fucking flex nightmare to potentially do again. Like, Kaiser said he would have played it, so who knows? Maybe they can get crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, for sure. Like, also, like these teams generally, like, if a winner bracket, like teams play against each other, generally they scrimmed each other in play, like in
Sure.
playoffs, so they know each other well, right? Like as you saw, there was
Yes.
a lot of overlap in picks between both series. So for sure, like you teams know a lot about each other, which means to get advantages, you need to like be even more unpredictable. So it can it will be for sure exciting to watch.
All right, Crownshot. That was some great. We had some great LEC matches this last
Yeah.
week. But I need us to now descend into the sewers of North America. We're popping the manhole cover, going down the ladder, and getting covered in shit. Okay, so
By the way, logically, Crownshot, if you get sick of all this shit with the off season in Europe, just become a mid laner and go to NA, mate. You probably get paid about fucking $1 million a year. Like at this point in time, I think you can probably do it as well. Half them can't play the majors either. Don't worry about it. Like they can't play Oriana either. So spoiler, you probably just be good. You could just play Tristana half the game. You'll be the best.
That's actually true. But also, here's the counter argument, Thorin, is that you look at Deftly's performance, and if you're Crownshot, you're like, holy moly, I could do way better than that if I was in NA. Because
you know when people kept doing that shit joke where, cause Deft, right? Obviously, like he was playing with like fucking Matt from Team Liquid, so they were like, look, it's Deft and Matter. It's like, first of all, that's not actually a very good joke, and secondly, they did really mean it. Like they actually did mean, because there was a lot of hype when Deftly first came along that he was going to be like some super talent or whatever. So here's the real joke, Monty. His name's written Deft LY. Well, in the end, the only truncation was what they fucking thought about what would happen in his career. Just took it from here to here with no fucking steps along the way. If you look up what truncation is, you daft cunts, and also short links. Anyway, that's the end of that segment. Because by the way, I've told people this before. That's actually what made me depressed about that Evil Geniuses lineup. I look at the lineup and I'm like, dude, if Doublelift had joined this team's fire. Like, this is fucking sick. This league could win LCS. And then you see Deftly there, it's like, it's just not going to happen, is it? Like, there's an obvious fucking weak spot in my lineup here.
Well, the problem that EG has had in terms of making a roster is that they haven't been able, like, it's the whole like Bang versus Jizuke shenanigans from last year all over again, right? Is that they can't have a well-rounded roster with the way that they have constructed it. And I'm sure Evil Geniuses was out there in the market because they love to spend money looking for Jizuke replacements. But the fact that you ended up with Jizuke again, it just means that you're constantly going to be limited by a certain play style. And bad luck for EG. Here comes a control mage meta again this year, and you can't play his strongest champs. And even if, they were banning Echo for a lot of the series as well. So it's like, well, we can't even just like pocket pick and try and force it based on our style. So, but even then, they had huge leads in some of these games.
Dude, the fact that they're banning Echo alone is a massive upset.
Yes, exactly.
They're wasting motherfucking bans on Echo. Dude, how are we losing these series? These are wins. We take these.
Well, it's just infuriating too, because it feels like, where's the carry on this team?
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's like, well, we got Impact, the ultimate weak side top laner, old Mr. Consistent up there, but then we have Deftly. it feels like EG kind of like got so close to building that good roster, like you said, in the offseason, and then just suddenly ended up with Deftly and Jizuke. And frankly, like, I don't know how much longer this fucking Deftly experiment can go on. Like, at what point do you just throw in the towel? It's the reverse problem of EU, where it's like they're willing to throw in the towel on Crownshot and take like a bunch of ADC rookies into the league.
Dude, they still have the gall to say that shit on broadcast. Like, he's an up and coming player for what? For 4 years? How long's it taken him to come up, motherfucker? In 4 years, Faker had won like worlds like twice or something. You're a mentalist. What is this shit? What are you talking about? He's not up and coming. How slow has this come up? What is he just fucking? Has he just gone over the event horizon of a black hole? I'm just never gonna the rest of our life. Just him gradually coming up, is it?
Well, it's just infuriating too, because in the same time period, you have Tactical, you have Lost, you have players that I think at least have a higher upside. I mean,
Dude, Tactical made it in one split. I think FBI took like what, a year. Like, mate, these people exactly. It's ridiculous the time scan, isn't it?
Definitely is the most known quantity in North America at this point. I hate to tell you, he's not suddenly going to get good. And people who make arguments of like, oh, look at Smeb. Smeb was the worst top laner and then he became good. You know why we talk about Smeb? Because it was so unlikely that that would happen. There's never been another player like that in League of Legends history who went from Vlog Panda to like, Khan. Like, there was a huge increase in talent that is basically unpredictable, right? And you would never, ever, 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 ever bank on that happening because it's 1 in a million. It's 1 in a million. That's why we talk about it, because it was so weird, right? So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to defend Tactical either, because his Tristana series was actually tragic against TSM, and maybe it's these rookies that are in these playoff situations, but definitely not a rookie, not anywhere close to a rookie. So I think for EG, you're just sitting there being like, how do I fix this team? Like,
by the way, there's a topic we didn't actually ask Crownshot about that we could tie into there. There's another thing that people are not doing, right? We're also treating all rookies like they're the same. I'll tell you the two positions I don't want a motherfucking rookie in my team would be jungle and AD carry. So the last thing I want is a guy who's never played a fucking playoff series and he's my jungler in a best of 5 against a real team. That's a nightmare simulator right there. That guy could break down completely and fuck the entire game. Not even necessarily totally his fault. And then AD carry, because you have to be so responsible if you want to play that role. That's not the guy. Like, that's why I can't handle. Dude, I told you this. The reason why I can't predict Team Liquid to win LCS is after seeing those Tristana ints from Tactical. It's like, homie, you're my fucking AD carrier. If you're going to int like that, apropos of nothing and with like almost no upside, why would I bet on you to fucking win this game? Because again, there's another team where like he has to be a carry, doesn't he? Like, he has to be one of the best players in the team in theory.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like a big like a supporting point for your argument is also the T1 situation where they have a extremely talented AD carry in Gumayusi, but they're just playing Teddy because in the end he's more reliable. Like
for sure, one of the most safest players ever. Yeah.
I mean, he will never he will always deliver, right? While Gumayusi might be a bit more explosive and stuff, but he also messed up sometimes. But in the end, like that's how the role is made, right? Like you have to be kind of a perfectionist or very like reliable, and in the end experience, I guess, teaches you that, right? Like I think Sven will not do a play like that because he has experiences from his career where he messed up, right? Like, I mean, every player does, right? So the longer the player has played, the more he knows how it feels to play best of how bad it feels to lose, right? Best of 5. So it's less likely they'll go for the high risk play, right? Because
here's the thing about like Gumayusi and like very mechanically talented rookies, right? Is that the line of thinking you're on, Crownshot, is like, yes, Gumayusi is an absolute nut in team fights, like unreal talent on that guy. But the problem is that when you're in a playoff match versus a good team of veterans in League of Legends, they will never give you the opportunity to mechanically outplay them, because if that mechanical outplay is possible, they will not introduce themselves into a potential losing situation. That is how it works when you're smart at the game. And if they do, that's on them, not on Gumayusi. So like, as a result, you have to have players, like the best players, it's the Sun Tzu shit, man. You're not going to put yourself into a war that you have the possibility of losing, right?
And by the way, ADC in a team fight is the most fucking obviously focused and targeted player in the whole game. Like, everyone's fully aware going into the fight. What can he do? What range can he attack us at? Who can peel for him? Like, that's how I thought. It's not like mid lane where you could just do some crazy fucking move with a burst mage and just get a kill. Like, I think it's one of the hardest roles in the whole game to play is like AD carry late game. If you're actually like in playoff settings, you have to be just flawless. You can't make a mistake.
That's why I mean I personally also like prefer Teddy, right? And that's why I always when people were ranking ADCs in NA and they like put Sven lower than like when people put FBI put himself first. I'm sorry, like, I don't want to flame, but like and people put him higher than Sven and like I mean come on, like do you know what league is about or what? Like in the end, in a best of 5, who would you rather have playing ADC for you, Sven or FBI, right? Like, come on.
To be fair, FBI still can't be trusted to police themselves. Just on brand move. There we go.
But yeah, like that's why like ruler players like this, like there's just a certain class about them, right?
Yes.
Maybe it's they've been playing for so long. Yeah.
Why do you think Deft is one of the greatest League of Legends players of all time? He is one of the safest, historically, most conservative AD carries that has ever existed. And yet he has reached all of these milestones in LPL and LCK, 1,000 kills in both, right? He's like second to Faker in terms of number of games in LCK. He's still here. He's still amazing. Everyone, like when I talk to players who have played against Deft, they always say how fucking good this guy is. Like unbelievable in scrims, unbelievable on stage. And you can't kill him. You can't kill him. And he may not have the flashiest style of play. Like for the big moments, like would I rather watch Deft or Gumayushi right now? I'd rather watch Gumayushi because it's so insane. But it's like 99% of the game is not one team fight. It's all of the things that set up that team fight. And if you're just able to go berserk on people, probably the other team has also made a mistake somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I mean, like recently he has been faltering every once in a while, but I still see when I hear people talk, I think Mickey said that Deft was the best player he played against at Worlds when they were playing against them in Carrier, and this guy has been stomping lanes since 2015 in LPL. He has 40 wins and 3 losses on Jinx, right? And he has played in with how many different supports? Maybe 6 in maybe like 15, 20 different teammates, and the class is still there. It's the same with Ruler, right? He won Worlds 4 years ago, and he's still among the best. And it's the same in EU, not in EU, in the West. It's like the ones you can equate kind of is Van and Reckless, right? That's why I have huge respect for these players because they've been like through every meta, and if I would have to like bet on them in a best of 5 against any other player, even if that player has been insane in regular season or something, I would always choose them. It's just because I guess experience is the best teacher, right? Like when you've seen like Reckless, like the Twitch flash on mid lane against Clutch Gaming, I think when he lost the game, right? Because of that, he will never do the mistake again, right? Never again. While some other players have not gone through that, so they'll be more prone to that. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So let's cherish that flash. I do personally. I go back to it. It's a wellspring of joy. Sustains me when I need when times are dark. So, and then there's always times he cried as well. I've also got those ones in my back pocket. You don't need to do it again. No need for a repeat act. You've seen it already. You don't have to make it like Star Wars and just keep doing it every few years, mate. Just get some popular act.
I'm actually surprised nobody's made like an epic like Reckless crying montage with like My Heart Will Go On and like fading to black and white. I feel like there's a lot of creativity you could have there.
Oh, there'd be so many clips from movies like I Just Can't Quit You, Man. It's just like fucking Boys Don't Cry. Just all the clips that you could think of from movies. So many classics. Yeah.
I feel like there's somebody could get a few 100,000 hits out of that if you're a video editor, but so I don't know. Like I think if we look at these NA playoffs, though, for me, the TSM versus TL series was a highly flawed series that TSM had many opportunities to win. TL also threw it many times by over pursuing. It was sloppy. We come to EG TSM. Now there's Baron steals that are happening that are winning TSM games. Deftly just like completely throwing with like 8 kills on a Kai'Sa. EG, this was a winnable series for EG. It was winnable. And yes, TSM was able to catch the throws in both series. Now, TL, they ended up losing, but they did catch some of the throws and like pick up games, right? But I think I'm not convinced that TSM is going to be able to realistically challenge TL or Cloud9 because it feels like they are, while they're fine, they're also getting huge breaks off of their opponent's mistakes.
That's what I loved about this series, though, because I didn't go into it thinking EG was really going to win. Like I told you, unfortunately, I think it was a very flawed team from the moment they built it.
Sure.
Like,
I mean, they were not the favorites, right?
But I was loving it because I knew when TSM wins, it will give those fans that hope that they need. Because you have to understand, Monty, I don't want to defeat them and have them go, yeah, all right, TSM sucks. I want them to the very bitter end to believe, just like from that split was perfect. Because now they're all going to believe they can do the lower bracket run. They can always come back from 0-2 down. And obviously, the key thing is, I don't want, to actually like have to like fucking go back. I just want to be the one there. Basically, all I want to do to everyone in TSM who's a fan, a pro player, an owner, management, I just want to be Scar, just going, long live the king, and then just throwing your fucking arm. No! That's all I want. Every year, just give me that. It's normally Worlds, but I'm willing to take it in LCS earlier. Okay.
Yeah, see, Thorin has when he watches Hamlet, he's just like he's all about Claudius. Actually, just
I just turn it off before the last third, Monty. You get some real down in the fucking whole thing. I prefer the way it was going before that. Yeah, exactly.
What's funny to me too is like we're seeing the same pattern, even though it's entirely different players with TSM, right? Which is that TSM, all the fanboys were like, wow, Bjergsen and Zilean, holy shit, so good. And I'm just sitting here being like, yep, just get to Worlds, see how it works for you, see how that undefeated Zilean goes for you, right? And lo and behold, they try it at Worlds against good teams, they get slapped around in lane and they lose. This time I'm just like, okay, TSM, why don't you go to an international tournament and give Ruler 8 kills and then see what happens to you? Because I promise that the Ruler's not going to throw that game, right? And so you see these flaws, but NA is just so horrible that there's no follow through, there's no snowball, there's no taking that lead to the completion.
I mean, there was also the first game, I think it was first or second, where they were like 2-8 in kills, and then Deftly like got caught on mid lane when he failed the Tristana jump, and then they won that game, but it was 2-8, and I think enemy had 2 dragons, so they would never win that game against like very good, like against Team Liquid or C9, right? Like,
I mean, much less international competition, right? Give those kills to Viper. And
yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think TSM has a very realistic shot outside of mega throws of winning LCS. I think it's a 2-horse race between Liquid and Cloud9. And we do have to briefly, before we end the show, touch on what was maybe one of the most boring League of Legends best of fives I've ever seen, which was 100 Thieves versus Dignitas, where Dignitas picks comps that do nothing and then does nothing and loses for free the first couple games. And then what I think is more telling, which is what the fuck was happening during game 3 of that series, where it looked like they had completely tilted off of the face of the planet. Dardoch is just running around inting with emotes. I can't even imagine how
that was like when they refused to like do the surrender vote, and you're like, right, you want to trap me in a game? You're not trapped in here with me. You do the fucking watchman on right. That's what he was doing right there. He was doing that like he was like, oh, you want to fucking troll? Let's troll, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like the first game was actually close. I think they had like 3 dragons to 0. I mean, they did have like Ari, Kalista against like Oriana. So
Yeah,
like, of course, they should be ahead. So then they lost that game. And then they just got progressively worse over the course of the games. And then third game, it was just like, 22 to 2 kills, or like some insane stomp. So I guess they just, I guess it seems that in in NA, there's a very a very steep drop of, you have like C9TL, and then I guess you have like
TSM 100 Thieves,
100 Thieves, and then there's no one, right? I guess.
Yes.
I don't know who's even.
It's EG in
besides
theory after
Dignity.
that, but they're not
Oh,
very
yes, it's
good, are
EG.
they?
Yeah, sorry. It's, yeah, like
Basically, EG and Dig
Yeah.
are just the uber flawed teams,
Yeah.
but in theory they can beat people somehow.
yeah, exactly. Like I would never I would always put like if I would have to predict an A, I would always say it's gonna be C9 Team Liquid. Like no, I think everyone would, right? Like so while in EU, I think the depth is a bit bigger, right? You feel like the maybe fourth or third team can actually contest. So
Sure.
for sure. So how does the playoff format works now? So does 100 teams play? Who do they play? TSM.
TSM. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, 100 Thieves will play TSM in the losers
Yeah.
bracket. C9 TL play each other in the winners bracket. But
Um,
I think for 100 Thieves, this really didn't answer any of my questions because
yeah,
as we head into the 100 Thieves TSM matchup, because of the way that 100 Thieves is structured, and Ryoma is basically just the worst version of Power of Evil,
yeah,
it just kind of feels like 100 Thieves is the worst TSM in
yeah.
this case.
For sure. I feel like TSM will just win because I don't think 100 Thieves got tested by Dignitas, right? They literally played the same comp every game. They played Oriana, Hecarim, Kai'Sa. Oriana, Hecarim, Kai'Sa, Rel. Hecarim, Kai'Sa, Rel. So okay, enemy is picking Kalista into me every game. They're not doing anything with it. But I just win. So you're not forced to change anything, right? So they're gonna do that first game against TSM, and we'll see if TSM has an answer to it, and then you'll see actually a correct, like proper series. But I still think TSM is favored, and then I would say the TSM will lose to whoever loses of the winners bracket, yeah, and then I would say probably C9 wins the split.
Yep, I
That's my
agree.
prediction.
And here's my extended prediction, right? I think that Dignitas, this is the absolute best they will ever be this year. I see this team because you have to remember the circumstances that created Dignitas's victory. First off, some lucky wins. Second off, the fact that CLG didn't have their roster and were still gelling. Like CLG should be a better team than Dignitas on paper with the players that they have. And
Yeah.
I think Dignitas, this is a team that this is their peak. It's not going to get better for they're not going to repeat the same record. They're not going to be taking this level of playoff seed moving forward. This team should be on paper one of the worst teams in the LCS. Now, how they got here is a mystery to me, right? But I look at what happened in game 3 and how weak mentally they were in this series because in theory, okay, so you made these kind of like wacky team compositions that, playing the Ari 2 games in a row, super questionable. But if you're coming back as Dignitas and you're taking the Oriana mid now, and you're actually playing a team composition that is theoretically capable of fighting a 5v5, and you're not locking yourself into Ari Gangplank, which did nothing, you should that should refresh your mentality somewhat. You say, okay, well, we lost those games with those champions. Now we're going to switch it up. But they just looked entirely broken in this game. And I don't think they're going to recover from that, ever at this point in time. Like, I think they're just done mentally as a team working together because that should be a pretty good mental reset. And they just crumbled completely.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like it just felt like they ran out of steam. Like they were just running in and dying constantly and taking losing fights, and then that's why the kill score was what, like I think it was like 22 to I don't know, like
4.
yeah, 4. Yeah, that's crazy, right? So yeah, I mean, I guess they just looked out of it. Mm, they reached their ceiling, I suppose, for at least maybe this split. Maybe next one they do
No,
better.
forever. This is it.
I mean, they have to get at least
I'm
one
trying to be
non-fucking
more
NA.
hard.
They have to have one laner that's not from fucking NA, for God's sake. Like, you're going too far the other way, boys. Just at least give me one. How about a good mid laner? Pick one of them up. There's a fucking million of them in Europe. A million.
I mean, here's the thing is that you would have to say that in order for Dignitas to improve, because we have seen improvement from other teams like CLG, you have to pick one player that's really going to step up and take their game to the next level. So let's go through them on Dignitas. First off, Aframu actually did have a very good split. I think Aframu was
The support
playing
jungle's pretty decent in their team.
Yeah. I think we saw what is basically historically been the Dardoch and Aframu ceiling Like, they've had on years, off years. Like, Afrim is pretty streaky as a player, but this is a meta that fit his champion pool. It's a team that was enabling his engaging and his shot calling and his style. So does it really get better for Afrimu and Dardoch? My answer is probably not. So pick which one of the other three players, the solo laner or the AD carry, that's going to step up. I don't think Soligo, Fake God, and Neo are going to be the ones who really dramatically improve to the point where this team's going to win more games. I think everybody just hit their ceiling. Like, there's only downhill from here.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair to say for sure.
So get that fucking bag, call up Crownshot. He can't say anything right now. Call up me, and I'll get a smoke signal to him somehow through some other means. And all I'll tell you is, you've got money and you morons who don't know the game. He sort of knows the game and knows LS and knows how to play the game. All I'm saying is I can bring this together. I can make this happen tomorrow.
There you go. There you go.
Not that you really want to play on Dignitas in your career, but, whatever. If it happens, it happens, okay?
I mean, it would be an upgrade, you got to say. So I don't know. I think like, if you have to pick, let's go back to C9TL. For me, I think Cloud9 is, I think, a slight favorite heading into the rest of the playoffs. I think either of those teams can absolutely win it all. I'd say it's like, for me, it's like
what
55,
I'm hoping,
45 right now.
Like, the dream to me is that we just get them to play twice. Like, I think the coolest would be whoever wins the first one, that we just have like a real chance for like the coaches to go fucking ham on that second series and do something really interesting with it.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think so. Like, I think like I'd give a bit of an edge to C9, just because I don't know, Perks, Sven, like these names, right? Like I would trust them always in best of fives, and I think also they're like, even the like supporting cast there is very good. So maybe they'll have like a close series. It might just be 3-2 twice, right? I actually have no clue because I've like absolutely zero insight in scrims or anything like that. But I just feel like C9 will be very, very fine in best of five, and um I would bet on them for sure. But for sure, Team Liquid can make it close because also their players have, most of them have played in like high stake BO5s, right?
Sure.
So,
I would just say, based on what I've seen, I have more confidence in Cloud9's consistency because Tactical's performance was so bad.
Exactly. If Tactical doesn't improve, then they're gonna get pumped, I think. But maybe if he patches it up, then it can be close because I think like their top is the best in the league, right? Obviously, like undeniable, like his laning and stuff. So he will always be in a good position. So then, if they make sure that the bot lane stuff is actually all right, then I think they have for sure like they made it close in regular season, right? I think they also won at least like one. I think the most recent one they won for sure. So I mean, if they can do it again for sure.
Team Liquid won both the games against Cloud9, I believe.
Oh, both? Oh, yeah. That's why I had in my memory. Like, I remember the most
Yeah, they
recent one, but I think for sure, like, if the Tristana is suiciding level 3 into 3 people, then they're not gonna win. But
yeah,
I
think
would imagine.
I think the
that's
difference
fit.
is too is that Fudge has improved a lot,
Yeah, he
right?
has.
And so I feel like the gap between him and Alfari is less than what it was previously. I also have more faith in the Cloud9 coaching staff than the Team Liquid
Exactly.
coaching staff.
Yep.
So I think that the advantage that TL had has lessened. And if anything, TL has introduced more randomness through Tactical's performance than Cloud9 has. I also think, like, if I had to say, okay, well, there's going to be a player on each team that kind of throws a bit early, like Perks' laning performance has been kind of shaky, but I trust Perks in the late game 1 million times more than I trust Tactical in the late game if there's like a comeback scenario, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, also, like, the difference between Alfari and Fudge is smaller than Tactical and Sven, right? So I would and from like what I see, like if the meta top lane is kind of like this, where you just blind Sion a lot of times, I mean, I think there's more action bot side generally, right? So I would put more like emphasis on that. So I would I would favor C9 100%. Oh, they have like a lot of coaching stuff too, and they're all quite smart and with a lot of experience. So I would for sure bet on them.
You have any final predictions for LCS playoffs, Thorin?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Not really. So at the moment, the problem is there's not really like a killer game. It's just Casino versus TL. Like I actually sort of low key hope that if TSM beats 100 Thieves, like that they just mega stomp it, and so at least then you get some hype that maybe they're going to be cool when they play whoever, be either TL or Cloud9, whoever they play. So at least gives you a 3-way race. That would be my hope.
I hope that too, but I'm just not optimistic that we are truly in a 3-way scenario. At least we have LEC to enjoy more options with. Okay, well, I think that'll probably do it for this week's episode. Thank you very much for coming on, Crownshot. You brought a lot to Vitality. I enjoyed watching their games much more after you came on board. I hope you continue to be on a team. That would be wonderful because you absolutely deserve it. Next week, we'll probably be talking about potentially some LCK playoffs as well, because there's a lot going on right there. We have more LCS and LEC games, so we'll return to those conversations. Probably more about LCS to talk about this coming week, just because we actually do have that C9 Team Liquid match. Just so you guys are aware, we will be very soon in the next day or two announcing the Discord for Insight on Esports. So if you want to come by there and actually have high quality nephew-free discussions of
what Reddit should be,
games,
basically, but isn't, sadly.
So if you want to have reasonable conversations while these games are going on, we're going to start opening that up alongside Richard for a variety of esports titles. We have launched a new cryptocurrency called Grog Coin through Rally, which will open up channels in the Discord for you if you hold above a certain threshold, which will allow you to ask Q&As on our show as well. And so kind of think of it as holding the coin for various perks that we're going to start to explore with, throughout as we expand the slate of shows. So we do have a lot planned in order to kind of get you guys more involved with the various broadcasts. We have hopefully more shows being added down the line. So this is all part of a larger plan that we are going to be slowly unfolding here for Insight on Esports. So stay tuned for that on social media. I will drop the Discord link in the VOD of the YouTube once we get it online, so you guys can just click there as well to join up. So hopefully, we know this show actually caters to mostly a 25 and up audience. So if you're in that age bracket, you might find a refreshing conversational change of pace from other social media mediums like Twitter or
Put it this way, it's going to be the same. In fact, even some of the mods might be the same as in my Discord, where I just told those admins it is a fucking privilege, not a right, to talk to me. So if anyone starts being an idiot, you just toss them out of fucking airlock and never worry about it for one more second. So we'll get rid of all the morons in the first week or so, and it'll only be legit people having conversations there, not people who are incredibly deranged, possibly with Fnatic and IG flares on Reddit. You all know who I'm talking about. I was too specific now. I shouldn't have given both flares. I gave that one away.
Calling out specific users. There we go. All right. So thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next week at the same time. Now that everybody is in daylight/summer time now, it'll be 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time next week on Monday, which is 8 p.m. Central European Summer Time that we will be starting this show. There should be no more confusion about time zones for the next few months. We'll see you then.